Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San. If you're able to, please support me on PayPal to help me stay active. Thank you. Now let's get back to the story of Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San audio series. Chapter 821. The three universally recognized strongest races among demons were dragons, phoenixes, and behemoths. In terms of bloodline and strength, the three were more or less on par with each other. They were also on par when it came to reproductive abilities, that is to say, they all fared very poorly. It was only natural. If these three races had the reproductive abilities of humans, there would have been no place for other races on the demon continent. Dragons and phoenixes shared a closer relationship, and in spite of their rivalry, they joined forces during critical moments, especially against the Behemoth clan. However, the Behemoth lineage was strong enough to put up a resistance, and thus the status quo was maintained. A lot had happened recently, however, and the fall of the Crystal Demon Emperor caused the Sky-Splitting Demon Emperor to feel some concerns. With the loss of the Crystal Demon Emperor, the dragon race had gone from being the strongest to a relatively weaker position. Currently, in terms of combat power, the Undying Demon Emperor ranked first, followed by the Sky-Splitting Demon Emperor. The power gap between the two was minimal, and if they were to clash, it was uncertain who would come out on top. Currently, all contention centered around Crystal City. On the Phoenix race's side, there was still the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor without a main city. Moreover, the Phoenix race boasted two emperors, which gave them a clear advantage if they were to fight for control. At the same time, this would place the Phoenix race directly against the Dragon race, which was undoubtedly a favorable scenario for the Behemoth clan. Thus, the Sky-Splitting Demon Emperor immediately chose to support the Tenebrous Demon Emperor. He didn't want Crystal City to remain under the control of the dragons, but it couldn't be allowed to fall into the hands of the Phoenix race either. Thus, it was easier for him to support the single Dragon Emperor and then make a deal with him regarding the city. Most other emperors with main cities were observing from the sidelines. For the Empyrean Dominion, whoever controlled Crystal City could not allow the Solstice Empire to interfere. This was the bottom line. Thus, the situation had become rather complicated, with no one having the absolute strength to seize Crystal City. Amid this stalemate, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor approached the Sky-Splitting Demon Emperor and proposed a marriage alliance between Sky-Splitting City and Kali City. For the Behemoth clan, this was undoubtedly beneficial without any downsides. The Peacock Demon clan and the Phoenix race were known as the two great avian clans, and they also conveniently happened to be archenemies. The support of the Peacock Demon clan was nothing to scoff at, and considering that Mei Gongzi had the potential to become the next Peacock Demon Emperor, Sky-Splitting City would have a strong ally in Kali City. Even if the Dragon race produced another emperor, they would still be able to stand on equal footing. Of course, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor wanted to have the Behemoth clan help Mei Gongzi purify her human bloodline. The Behemoth clan already had one emperor. In this scenario, if Jinongwa aimed to become an emperor himself, he would certainly face opposition from dragons and phoenixes during the emperor's duty report. By contrast, the weaker Kali City had no such issue, and it also enjoyed the support of the White Tiger Demon Emperor. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor suggested that they quickly help Mei Gongzi cleanse her human bloodline and support her to become an emperor, ensuring that no outsiders from beyond the demon continent, nor any nymphs, managed to ascend first. With the death of the Crystal Demon Emperor, a position had been opened for one powerful emperor, or for two weaker ones. Many emperors were seizing this opportunity to cultivate and claim more fortune for themselves. Moreover, according to the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, the plane itself was also in the process of reclaiming some of this fortune. At such a time, nothing was more important than having a new emperor ascend and secure more fortune for the demons. If Mei Gongzi married Jinongwa and then ascended, then Jinongwa would have the support of her, the Sky-Splitting Demon Emperor, and the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, and the White Tiger Demon Emperor would also likely cooperate. He could quite possibly become an emperor while his father was still alive, in which case the Behemoth lineage would wield the greatest influence in the ancestral court. This was the core reason for the Sky-Splitting Demon Emperor's interest. Naturally, he fully trusted his son and shared everything with him. This was the entire story behind Jinongwa visiting Kali City. After seeing Mei Gongzi's stunning beauty, any resistance in his heart had completely vanished, and he even began to look forward to the completion of this marriage alliance. For him, it was undoubtedly a great opportunity. Mei Gongzi's voice rang out just as Jin Onggua was contemplating the pros and cons of the whole situation in his mind. Jin Onggua looked at her stunning face with a smile. From his perspective, he had already shown great sincerity. As the lord of sky-splitting city, and given the complex internal situation within the Empyrean Dominion, how could he not be busy? Yet, under such circumstances, he was willing to stay and get to know Mei Gongzi better. There was no greater sincerity than that, right? However, Mei Gongzi's next words caused Jin Onggua's expression to darken. Thank you very much for coming. However, when it comes to marriage, I've already made my decision. There's no way I can marry into your clan. So I don't wish to take up too much of your time. I'm sure the affairs of Sky-Splitting City are also quite pressing. Jin Onggua frowned slightly and asked, Are you bothered that I already have a wife? Mei Gongzi shook her head. It's not about that. I just have my own plans. Jin Onggua responded calmly. City Lord Mei, the current situation on the continent is quite complex. You know, with the fall of the Crystal Demon Emperor, Crystal City has become a target for all sides. Without the presence of the top emperor, we can no longer fully suppress the nymph emperors of the Solstice Empire. Crystal City is near the ancestral court, and its ownership can be claimed by anyone. In this context, our emperors are all very anxious. Our behemoth lineage has the credentials for it, and we hope to seize this opportunity to gain more resources. If we marry, we will see immediate benefits, both of us. Whatever we gain in the future, Kali City will have a share. Moreover, my father would fully support your ascension to the 12th Order. In fact, he will support you first, even before he supports me. The reason my father did not approve of you during the evaluation is your human bloodline. But if you marry me, that is nothing to be concerned about. Our clan possesses a number of techniques that allow us to remove weaker bloodlines. You can become a pure-blooded demon very easily. We can also use our secret techniques to help you gain an even stronger physique. In other words, with my clan's support, you could become an emperor in a few years. At that time, you could, in turn, support me in becoming an emperor as well. With you, me, my father, and the White Tiger Demon Emperor, we would have 4 emperors working together, and at least 3 main cities. We could sway the entire ancestral court if need be. Even the dragon and phoenix races would fall behind us. Isn't that perfect? Mei Gongzi replied solemnly. According to the rules of the ancestral court, marriages between the rulers of main cities are not allowed. If city lords of main cities were to marry, it would significantly impact the balance of the ancestral court. That's true, but the rule is only in place to avoid emperors with main cities from becoming a couple. However, you and I are not emperors, so the opposition won't be quite as strong. I can even promise you that our future child will be the next lord of Sky-Splitting City. This is the best I can offer you, and I am doing so with utmost sincerity. Jin Onggua wasn't just flattering himself. His offer was indeed as valuable as could be. The Behemoth clan valued bloodline purity highly, and if he were to marry Mei Gongzi, their child would obviously not have a pure Behemoth bloodline. Under such circumstances, promising the child the inheritance of Sky-Splitting City was no small commitment. Unfortunately, no matter how much sincerity he showed, he was destined to fail. City Lord Jin, I understand your intentions. I also hope that Kali City and Sky-Splitting City can have a deep friendship. However, that friendship cannot be achieved through my marriage. To be honest, I already have someone I love, someone I'm devoted to for life. No matter what, I cannot use my marriage to achieve any kind of cooperation. This is not the kind of marriage I want. I thank you for your kind intentions, and I appreciate your offer, but my decision is final. Mei Gongzi's rejection was absolute, without a trace of hesitation. Luo Qingzhu shifted her gaze slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but ultimately remained silent. In fact, when Jin Onggua had laid out his potential terms and conditions, even she was somewhat tempted. Jin Ongua's expression darkened. He had never been rejected in his life, and for a domineering spirit like him, being refused in courtship was undoubtedly a major insult. However, he did not lash out. Instead, he merely said in a deep voice, If that's the case, I won't say anything else. City Lord Mei, if you happen to change your mind, you can contact me. And I must tell you something. This matter is not merely my will. It's the suggestion of the ancestral court and my father. As for you, if you cannot resolve the issue of your human bloodline, your ascension will never be approved. The Peacock Demon clan will never have an emperor again." As he spoke, he stood up, nodded to Mei Gongzi, and without waiting for her to see him off, turned and walked out. Jinongwa left, taking his behemoth delegation with him. On the very day of their arrival, after just a single lunch, they chose to depart. No insults were thrown and no threats were made, but it was clear that Kali City had not gained Sky-Splitting City's friendship. Only Jinongwa, Mei Gongzi, and Luo Qingzhu knew what exactly transpired between the Lord of Sky-Splitting City and the Lord of Kali City. After sending off these uninvited guests, Mei Gongzi returned to the city lord's mansion. Seeing Mei Gongzi furrow her brow in concern, Luo Qingzhu couldn't help but sigh. You know, even if you didn't agree, there was no need to refuse so directly. The Behemoth clan has a long history, and is indeed one of the strongest clans of the entire demon continent. The true extent of the sky-splitting demon emperor's power is something even the other emperors may not fully know. After all, he has always kept a low profile when faced with the dragon and phoenix races, yet even so, he still ranks fourth. Gaining such an ally's support would benefit both you and Kali City. Even if you had to feign interest, you should have maintained a more cordial relationship with Jinongwa. Mei Gongzi looked at Luo Qingzhu and shook her head. Mother, if that man was asking for something else, I would have definitely feigned interest and played along. How could I not know how much support from Sky-Splitting City would benefit us? But marriage is different. If I keep an ambiguous attitude toward Jinongwa, even letting him feel that he has a chance to marry me, then how could I ever face Tang San? He has always supported me. He has even risked his life multiple times to protect me, so how could I do this to him? I don't want even the slightest rift between him and me, so I could not hesitate even for a second. I am sorry for letting down our clan, mother, but I did what I had to do. Luo Qingzhu gazed deeply at her, then suddenly couldn't help but laugh. Silly child, it's fine. I just feel it's a bit of a pity. You really are like me, a love-struck fool. Back in the day, if I hadn't been one, do you think your father would have become the clan leader and whatnot? Oh, are you talking about me? Mei Gongzi and Luo Qingzhu turned to see none other than Xiao He, who had been conveniently employed as Kali City's strategist and therefore had permission to move around freely in the city lord's mansion. Father, why are you back? For some reason, since Xiao He became human, Mei Gongzi felt even closer to him. Tang San brought me back. He knew the Lord of Sky-Splitting City was visiting today, and wanted me to offer some strategic advice. He's tied up with important matters on his end. So how did it go? What's the purpose of that guy's visit? Mei Gongzi and Luo Qingzhu exchanged a glance, then Luo Qingzhu chuckled. Tang San sure found a good time not to show up. His wife was almost snatched away. Xiao He was stunned. What do you mean snatched? Oh, seriously? The Sky-Splitting City Lord came here to propose marriage? Does the ancestral court know about this? As expected of a man of his intelligence, Xiao He immediately understood Jinongwa's intentions just from Luo Qingzhu's words. Mei Gongzi hugged Luo Qingzhu's arm and said, Mother, what are you talking about? Who's the wife? Luo Qingzhu laughed. Oh, I don't know, some love-struck person here was just now professing her undying love. What's this? Denying it already? Poor Tang San. Xiao He shook his head helplessly. All right, enough messing around. Tell me the details so I can think it over. Mei Gongzi recounted the entire conversation she had with Jinongwa, without leaving anything out. Xiao He listened attentively, asking several questions along the way. After hearing Mei Gongzi's account, he fell into deep thought. It was a long while before he finally looked up again, and he looked rather serious. This matter is not simple. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor and the Sky-Splitting Demon Emperor must have reached some kind of agreement. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was previously the most opposed to you, but now he wants you to become an emperor as soon as possible. This drastic change in attitude must be due to something significant. Mei Gongzi said, according to Jinongwa, it's because they hope I can better compete for the fortune of this planet. Xiao He said, this is a crucial aspect and I believe it is in fact true. For the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, having the Sky-Splitting City Lord propose to you is undoubtedly beneficial in multiple ways. If this succeeds, it will certainly help in gathering fortune on the demon continent. Once you become an emperor, the fortune of the Empyrean dominion will increase again. If Jinongwa also ascends to emperor, it will have an even greater impact. The celestial fox demon emperor would likely be able to gather more fortune. His support for Jinongwa proposing to you must come with preconditions. It's likely that the sky-splitting demon emperor promised that if the marriage succeeded, they would maintain a closer relationship. Together with his son and you, they would all support the celestial fox demon emperor. From the ancestral court's perspective, it would also solve the issue of your human bloodline. These are all critical factors, although there may be other motives as well. At the same time, your refusal doesn't actually inconvenience the celestial fox demon emperor. What it does, however, is put the behemoth clan in opposition to us, which could be advantageous for the celestial fox demon emperor if he targets you again in the future. And speaking of that, I don't think he will let it rest here. He will likely use this incident to further his agenda. Mei Hongxi was stunned. I've already offended Sky-Splitting City. What else could he possibly do with this? Shao, he said. There's a fundamental premise to our discussion. Do you know what it is? Mei Gongzi shook her head. At the moment, she really couldn't figure out what it was. The premise is that you are currently the most suitable candidate among all the demon race to become an emperor. Mei Gongzi was taken aback. The most suitable to become an emperor? Shao he nodded and said, Our clan has no emperor. Meanwhile, you've succeeded in your evaluation and are now the lord of Kali City. These two factors naturally give you an advantage when you ask for the ancestral court's approval to ascend. The only things that could affect you now are whether your cultivation can reach the required level and your human bloodline. The former is just a matter of time, but the latter is a critical issue. The ancestral court will never allow someone with human blood in their veins to become the first human emperor. Conversely, as long as that issue is dealt with, your ascension will be a matter of course. There would be few emperors opposing you. This would enable you to become an emperor in the shortest time, thereby gathering fortune for the ancestral court, and more specifically, for the Empyrean dominion. The celestial fox demon emperor controls fortune, and during your evaluation he suffered a significant loss. Nothing is more important than recovering that fortune. It's the foundation of the celestial fox clan's prosperity. However, he greatly fears humans, so during your path to becoming an emperor, he must address the issue of your human bloodline. This is the other important reason he had Jinongwa propose to you, and I suspect he'll continue to pursue this angle. Mei Gongzi frowned and said, At least Jinongwa's status is somewhat acceptable. Could the celestial fox demon emperor really find someone else similar to propose? If I can reject one, can't I reject a second? If I refuse them all, would it not be considered too offensive? Shao he shook his head and said, It's not that simple. The next tactic probably won't be the same, but the direction will likely remain unchanged. We'll have to wait and see how he acts. Mei Gongzi asked, So what should I do now? Remain unchanged to handle all changes? Shao he nodded and said, That's your best option. You definitely don't want to address the issue of your human bloodline, right? Mei Hongxi nodded firmly. Of course. As far as I am concerned, that is not an issue at all. I am human. Shao he said. Then you need to rapidly improve your cultivation, aiming to reach the peak of the 11th order as soon as possible. It's unlikely that you can ascend just like that, but who knows? By the time you reach that point, Tang-san might have a solution. I always feel he has a way. He's always calm and unruffled. If you manage to become an emperor without relying on the ancestral court, it would be ideal. No matter how clever the celestial fox is, he cannot possibly know that you already have the support of 3 demon emperors behind you. That's our trump card. When it comes time for the emperor's evaluation, who knows what might happen? The White Tiger Demon Emperor, the Undying Demon Emperor, and the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor supported Mei Gongzi directly, and the Sword Saint Demon Emperor had a good relationship with them. With their approval, Mei Gongzi's evaluation might not be impossible. In fact, the Undying Demon Emperor had clearly stated that he would support her even if she still had human blood. As the strongest Demon Emperor of this era, even if the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor opposed it, he likely wouldn't be able to sway the other emperors. With part of the fortune of the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain stripped away, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's status had actually declined. The undying demon emperor truly had the biggest fist in the Empyrean dominion, in every respect. Meigongzi said. Then let's take it one step at a time. Mother, I'll have to trouble you to manage things in Kali City. I'll spend more time with Tang San and cultivate with him. My progress is much faster when I'm with him. Luo Qingzhu couldn't help but roll her eyes. That Tang San, he took my daughter, and now he's even trying to get my husband on his side. He's really something else. Shao he couldn't help but laugh and said, Never mind little Mei, even my progress is faster with Tang San. I have a human body now and he knows best what it can do. The fact that little Mei has such high cultivation at her age is more due to Tang San than due to me. If I were to rank the beings I fear most on the demon continent, he would top the list, not the celestial fox demon emperor. Besides, he's my savior. I have to repay him. When you have the time, come to Crescent Island to find us. He's been up to something big there. It's truly astonishing, something I've never seen in my life. Hearing this, both Luo Qingzhu and Meigongzi couldn't help but grow curious. Luo Qingzhu asked, What is Tang San doing on Crescent Island? Shao he replied, He's trying to connect the islands that humans have migrated to, and he's planning to establish an overseas country for humanity. Upon hearing this, Meigongzi remained calm. She had known about Tang San's plan to build a nation for a while, but Luo Qingzhu was stunned. A country? Just like that? Are humans really at the stage where they can establish a country? Shao he smiled bitterly and said, I'm the one doing all the hard work. He's just a hands-off boss. I'm now the acting prime minister of this fledgling human nation. Soon there will be many things to coordinate with you, and we'll need some support from Kali City under the table. But honestly, the country Tang San is building is really fascinating. It feels like we're really seeing a glimmer of hope for humanity's rise. At that moment, Tang San stood on the shores of Crescent Island. Out on the sea, massive figures floated on the water, bowing respectfully toward him. At the forefront were the 5 kings of the Sea Giant clan. The middle pillar king respectfully addressed Tang San. Lord Sea God, our Sea Giant clan has over 3 million members, and 1 million will gradually migrate here. This is the most we can spare outside of guarding the sea. We plan to establish a settlement here. From now on, this will be our home. The Sea Sky Tree clan has been working on resolving the uprooting issue, and will join us soon. Our clan's sea god pillars, except those kept in our ancestral land, will also be moved here. After consulting with the Sea Sky Tree King, we concluded that the sea god pillars are essential for connecting the islands across the sea and making your vision possible. Tang San smiled and nodded. Thank you for your hard work. I'll leave this matter to you then. The middle pillar king bowed deeply and said, This is our duty. In the future, the Sea Giant clan will form a friendly alliance with humanity and protect them for as long as they are within the endless blue sea. After the last incident, where they truly witnessed the power of the sea god's divine seat, the Sea Giant clan had completely submitted. They all understood that as long as Tang San was around, there would be no other authority on the endless blue sea. All they could do was cooperate, and if they wanted a slice of the pie, then they had to cooperate to the absolute best of their ability. Tang San did not plan to directly involve himself in the specifics of connecting the islands. His focus was on researching cultivation methods for humanity, a task he had been working on for a long time. Finding a technique that could universally suit humans proved to be extremely difficult. Even as a true god, he could not directly bestow innate abilities like demons, nymphs, and sea beasts had. With human living space now expanding and covert immigration continuing with the support of the Etherhorn Merchant Association in Kali City, Tang San regularly traveled across the continent to teleport human immigrants to overseas locations. It was a lengthy process and would not be over anytime soon, but the situation in Kali City remained stable for now. At the same time, Tang San had just broken through to the Great Demon King level and was still stabilizing his cultivation. Increasing his own power was undoubtedly still the top priority. He absolutely had to grow stronger as fast as possible. The dawn of humanity was certainly not far beyond the horizon, but how far it was depended on him and Meigongzi. Their next goal was to become emperors. Only when both he and Meigongzi reached that level would humanity truly have its own guardians, and only then would they have the room to develop. But at the same time, once they reached the emperor level, The time Tang San and Mei Gongzi could remain in this plane would be limited. When Tang San reached the pinnacle of the 12th order and sought to reach the God King level once more, it would be time for him to leave this plane and return to his original one. Therefore, before that happened, he had to find at least one cultivation method that was suitable for humans. Only with their own way of becoming strong could humanity truly stand tall. These days he had been cultivating while researching, but he had hit a bottleneck in his studies. He couldn't come up with a good solution. The human body was inherently too fragile, and Tang San couldn't just genetically engineer some powerful innate abilities into people. Even assuming he was successful, such traits were not easy to pass on, and the side effects were likely to impact reproduction. If gaining powerful abilities came at the cost of reproductive capability, it would render one of humanity's greatest advantages completely moot. Therefore, Tang San had to consider this aspect as well in his research. No, I can't keep going on. Brooding over it won't help. Tang San woke from his meditation and muttered to himself. Just then, a silver light shone inside the wooden hut, and two figures appeared simultaneously. Mei Gongzi and Shao He had returned together. Seeing Mei Gongzi, Tang San's furrowed brow immediately relaxed. He stood up to greet her. So? Is the sky-splitting city lord sorted out? He asked. Mei Gongzi replied. He's already gone. Tang San asked in surprise. So soon? What happened? Mei Gongzi looked at him with a half-smile. He came to propose marriage. He actually wanted to marry me and form an alliance with Kali City. Are you scared? Tang San's eyes flashed with a brief golden light, but he maintained a cheerful smile. Of course not, I trust you. Did you drive him away? Mei Gongzi sighed and shrugged. What else could I do? She then briefly explained her impressions and Shao He's analysis. After listening to her, Tang San nodded. Our Prime Minister is right. All we can do is wait. Let's see what tricks the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor has up his sleeve. One thing is for sure, though. He is digging a deeper hole for himself every day. He should be thanking me for not starting trouble with him, and instead he is the one starting trouble with me? Fine. Before we leave this plane, I might let the other emperors off, but I'll never spare him. Watching Tang San smile while speaking such harsh words, Shao He's heart stirred. He said, Well, Lord Sea God, the Sea Giant clan is here and they've discussed the methods of connecting the islands with me, as you've seen in the paper I sent you. If it works, it'll be a monumental project. The future benefits for humanity's overseas expansion will be immeasurable. What do you think of the plan? Tang San smiled bitterly. I've been busy with research lately, so I didn't have time to read that stuff. Why don't you give me a summary? Shao He slapped his forehead. So you're really planning to just sit back and not get involved, huh? Tang San chuckled and shrugged. With you here, do I even need to step in? It's not that I want to sit back and relax. It's just that I need to minimize my presence among people. In the future, I will inevitably leave with little Mei. This is both my personal wish and something I promised to the planar ruler, and it will be done. To most sea beasts, the sea god is a distant, intangible figure. Moreover, most sea beasts have low intelligence, which makes things easier to handle. But humans are different. If my personal presence is too strong, and if I gain too much power of faith from the human side, I will be overstretching my authority. I am the sea god, so gaining faith from the sea is natural, but humans are not marine creatures. The plane would react to counter that trend, and it could bring disaster to humanity. So, I'll have to rely on you for this. Well, no one knows if what you're saying is true, so I'll just take it as fact, replied Shao He helplessly. Anyway, let me explain the plan to you. Here's the situation. The islands humans have migrated to can be divided into 6 regions. Each region contains islands of varying sizes. One such region is right here around Crescent Island, and it can support around 1 million people. Now, if what I discussed with the Sea Giant clan comes to fruition, we'll be able to host not just 1 or 2, but 10 million easily. The key to all this is that the Sea Giant clan will spare no effort in relocating all sea god pillars that aren't needed for stabilizing the sea. This is the first stage of the project. We will unify these island regions into a single area by using the sea god pillars. In other words, the 6 existing archipelagos will serve as the focal points of the foundations on which we will build our country. With the sea god pillars in place, this region will not be impacted by storms, underwater earthquakes, and other phenomena. So we will be able to safely implement the next step. According to the Sea Giant Kings, the deepest part of this sea area is about 1,000 meters, but most regions are only 200 to 500 meters deep, which is more manageable. Once the sea god pillars are in place, the sea sky tree clan can start growing appropriately. Trunks of fallen sea sky trees will be laid flat on top of the crowns of the growing trees, and in time, they will merge into a solid structure. The first step is to build sea bridges about 50 meters wide, connecting the 6 island clusters as well as connecting to the other bridges. With the current capabilities of the Sea Giant Clan and the Sea Sky Tree Clan, this is entirely achievable. The second stage involves the sea sky trees growing within the whole area, until the sea surface is covered in tree canopies. Using these canopies and the sea god pillars as support points, we can construct land above. With the current population of the Sea Sky Tree Clan, they can fill in about 1/3 of the space between islands with landmass. Of course, this so-called landmass is actually a giant raft. If necessary, the Sea Sky Tree Clan and Sea Giant Clan can sink the pillars and tree trunks deeper into the sea, fully submerging and hiding the constructed land. We need to discuss carefully how to utilize this area. The final step, which will take the longest, is actual land reclamation. Once the sea sky trees are firmly rooted here and fully interconnected, we'll have a solid foundation. We can then bring in silt and rocks to gradually build solid land in the entire area. With the sea sky trees and pillars providing support, the reclaimed land will have a stable foundation. Once the whole area between the island clusters is filled in, it will be the size of a small continent. Our calculations show that the total area would be close to 1/10 the size of the Demon Continent, more than enough for humans to thrive. Even though Tang San was the initiator of this plan, he couldn't help but gasp when he found out the sheer magnitude of the project Shao he was now leading. "Damn, father-in-law, you sure know how to scale things up," Tang San exclaimed in awe. "But I have to say, this is probably the best way to solve the problem once and for all." Shao he nodded. "Yes, it is indeed the best solution. The prerequisite, though, is that the ancestral court doesn't interfere. I think during the first and second phases we won't attract much attention, and if we do we can just hide. But once we reach the third phase and a massive piece of land appears here out of nowhere, it won't be easy to stay unnoticed, given how close it is to the Demon Continent." Tang San shrugged. "It is what it is. By the time we reach that point, we will have the ability to protect the entire human settlement, whatever it takes." "How long will each phase take?" Shao he said. "The first phase can be completed quickly, probably in about a month. The second phase will take about a year, and the third phase anywhere between 5 and 10 years. Of course, this is all assuming you continue to. After all, for sea sky trees to grow rapidly, they'll need the blessing of the sea god, and they need it in abundance. In other words, it's not a bad deal for the Sea Giant Clan and the Sea Sky Tree Clan either." Tang San nodded. "In that case, we should have enough time. Let's proceed." Shao he said. "Once the first phase is complete, we can start thinking about our country. After all, when all the people here start having access to each other, having a centralized government becomes essential. And speaking of that, shouldn't you give our country a name?" Tang San smiled slightly and said, "Sea sky trees will be a crucial part of our plan. After all, this country will be built on top of an underwater forest, in a sense. For the time being, I would like to call this country the Skytree Realm, as a tribute to them. As for later, we'll see when we get to that step." Shao he nodded and said, "All right, we'll call it the Skytree Realm. I'll prioritize pushing this plan forward. As I said, we should see the first phase more or less implemented within a month. If you want to go out for a while, feel free, but it would be best if we had a way to stay in touch. That way, if any issues arise here, we can contact you immediately." Tang San nodded slightly. "Little May and I have a special way of communicating. If necessary, no matter where I am, she can alert me immediately. I'll use the space-time lighthouse to teleport back to Crescent Island." Things were far different nowadays from what they'd been just a year before. With the space-time lighthouse and the Azura sword as the link between him and Mei Gongzi, there would be no delays in communication. Whenever a problem arose, Mei Gongzi could simply trigger the Azura sword's intent, instantly connecting with Tang San and signaling him to return at once. "Then you'd better go quickly. Finding a way for humans to cultivate is the most crucial task for the future development of our nation. Without this foundation, humans will always live under the shadow of demons and nymphs, relying on their bloodlines for the demonic god transformation. Listening to Xiaohe's words, Tang San couldn't help but feel a bit conflicted. It wasn't that he didn't agree, but this guy was really quick to adopt his new role. Xiaohe sighed and said, "Don't look at me like that. I'm just adapting to the situation. Besides, Qingzhu recently infused me with her bloodline, and after retraining in the peacock transformation, I've increasingly felt the benefits of a human body. Cultivating the demonic god transformation the way humans do may pose difficulties in terms of bloodline purity, but as far as insights go, humans are far better off. I don't think anyone understands this better than me, having trained both as a human and as a demon. This also made me realize how strong human potential is. I mean, that's a given. Otherwise, you and Little May wouldn't have become the fastest advancing great demon kings in history. Your progress rate is unprecedented on the demon continent, and it goes to show that what humans lack is an opportunity to excavate their potential." "Exactly." Tang San nodded slightly. "What humans lack are opportunities." Mei Gongzi, who had been quietly listening on the side, suddenly interjected. "Does this mean you're planning to leave me behind?" Hearing the hint of emotion in her voice, Tang San smiled wryly. "That's not what I meant. I'm just worried that trouble might arise here at any time. If I go too far, no communication device can keep me in touch with the people here. On the other hand, with you here, we'll be able to rely on our bond. Even if we can't talk directly, you can at least alert me if something happens. How about this? I'll go out during the day, teleport back at night, and the next day, I'll teleport back to where I left off to continue exploring." Xiaohe chimed in. "Little May, he needs to find an opportunity and requires solitude and quiet reflection. If you're with him, his thoughts will be on you. And how could he find the right opportunity then?" Mei Hongxi suddenly giggled. "Dad, since when did your emotional intelligence get so high? I wasn't upset with him at all." Xiaohe laughed and said, "You just can't bear to see him go, right? I've been there. I can easily read these little thoughts of yours." Mei Hongxi's cheeks flushed. She walked up to Tang San and said, "If you're going, then go ahead. I'm also worried that the ancestral court might take action against us again. But unless it's something very important, I won't call for you. You can go and search with peace of mind, but don't stay away too long." "Yes, it won't be too long. I already have my own thoughts and ideas. I just need to see more to refine them. Later, I might actually need to visit the Solstice Empire to find more insights, and I'll take you with me then. Communication should still be stable on the demon continent." Tang San felt reassured, leaving the task of laying the groundwork for the new country to Xiaohe. This so-called country was still just a fledgling concept. There was no rush to formally establish a sovereign nation. But the overseas immigrants were already in large enough numbers that a unified government system was needed. This was the long-term solution and the best way to accommodate more immigrants. Luo Qingzhu dispatched a great demon king elder of the clan to assist Xiaohe. Before the completion of the first phase, Xiaohe could be teleported to any island at any time through the teleportation array. His current tasks included establishing unified regulations, inspecting the islands, counting the population, and documenting everything. In addition, procedures for immigration had to be put in place. Everybody would have to register and move to a set destination. It was a massively complex process that could not be done by a single person, so Zhang Haoshuan also sent over a dozen students from Redemption Academy to assist Xiaohe. With everything at home settled, Tang San became the hands-off boss. He couldn't possibly manage every detail of the vast human world himself, and neither did he wish to do so. If he took care of everything for humanity, it would take countless years, and humans would never truly grow on their own. What Tang San needed to do now was maintain a good state of mind and search for a path to power that would give humanity a future. As for how that future would unfold, humans would have to find out for themselves. There was once a story about a young man who raised a baby bird. Every day around the same time, the young man would feed it worms. Over time, the bird grew accustomed to this, and when it was released into the wild, it had no idea what to do. When it noticed a worm crawling across the ground, it would approach the worm and stand there with its beak open, waiting for the worm to jump in, rather than pick it up and eat it. Excessive protection only makes creatures lose their survival instincts. For that reason, Tang San didn't directly involve himself in governing the new country, training people, or anything of the kind. He believed that with humanity's innate creativity, they would soon establish a system that suited them best. All he needed to do was be a guardian in the shadows, ensuring that humans had the opportunity to awaken, and were not crushed in the meantime. In fact, he hoped that humans would forget about him once he left. As long as they could truly develop their own survival abilities and fight against the other races on this plane, that would be enough. This was also his promise to the planar ruler, to interfere as little as possible with the development and balance of this plane. In fact, the whole reason the planar ruler had even accepted Tang San's proposal in the first place was that others had no concern for this balance. The development of demons and nymphs had become excessive, unfair to the planet's other beings. This imbalance was causing the fortunes of Phelan Planet to skew dramatically, affecting the entire plane. Had this not been the case, Tang San's tribulation would have gone quite differently. If the Phelan Planet plane had been in an optimal state, the best way for the planar ruler to resolve the potential threat posed by Tang San would have been to eliminate him outright, and for all his trump cards, it would have been quite possible for him to die. Tang San had bribed the plane with nearly half of the fortune seeds of the heavenly bloom. Coupled with the overwhelming allure of his proposal, this allowed him to become the unique existence he was now, the single true god of this plane. However, he knew that the planar ruler wouldn't give him much time. He had to accomplish many things within a limited period and then leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, he risked being assimilated by this plane. At that point, the planar ruler could even strip him of his divine seat, in which case he would never be able to leave unless he could elevate the plane to a divine realm and regain his cultivation that way. Given his limited lifespan, the variables were far too many, far beyond what Tang San wanted to confront. Only by reclaiming control of the Douluo divine realm could he have everything under his control and continue to steer things in his desired direction. After bidding farewell to Shao He and Mei Gongzi, Tang San set out to sea. He didn't have a specific plan in mind. He just picked a direction and flew away. The purpose of this journey was to seek an opportunity, though how to find it, Tang San wasn't sure. The endless blue sea was incredibly expansive, so he simply wandered above it, continuously blessing the sea with his sea god aura, spreading his presence further. It was as if he were a lord patrolling his domain. Even if he didn't find the opportunity he sought, at least he would bless the endless blue sea further and receive more faith in return. For him, this was the most stable form of cultivation. As he continued flying, the beauty of the endless blue sea unfolded before his eyes. The sea came in various shimmering hues of blue that delineated deep areas from shallow ones. Most of it was a deep blue stretching endlessly below, giving him a boundless feeling. Tang San's heart settled during this flight as he quietly immersed himself in the experience. The further he flew, the more he felt the vastness of Phelan Planet. The endless blue sea truly lived up to its name. Even with the sea god's power, he began to lose his sense of direction. He had to rely on the rising and setting of the sun to determine his position. As he flew, he saw countless creatures emerge, many of which he had never seen in his previous plane. Clearly marine life unique to Phelan Planet. Starting from the western part of the sea, which met the northeast coast of the Demon Continent, Tang San continued eastward, deep into the sea. The planet was round, and he believed that as long as he kept moving in one direction, he would eventually emerge on the western side of the Demon Continent, near the Solstice Empire. He wanted to personally measure just how vast Phelan Planet truly was. With his Dragon Rock transformation, his flying speed was top tier, and as a great demon king, he could fly 8,000 to 10,000 nautical miles a day. However, after his first day of flying, he found that aside from the occasional small islands, he never saw any larger landmasses, much less a continent. He was flying over a boundless expanse of water. Even after a full day of non-stop flight in a single direction, there was no end in sight. This gave Tang San some insight. The reason the Demon Continent could gather such immense fortune and nearly control the entire fortune of Phelan Planet likely had a lot to do with the small amount of land on the planet. The size of the sea clearly exceeded the size of the Demon Continent by an unknown factor. Although there were far more marine creatures compared to land creatures, they were spread out far and wide. Compared to the vastness of the endless blue sea, the sea beasts were simply too few in number, and even if a clan or race was powerful and numerous, the area they could control was still limited. The sea giant clan, for instance, was extremely powerful and had a few million members. It sounded like a lot, but spread across the entire sea it was nothing. In short, the life forms in the endless blue sea could be described as completely scattered. From Tang San's experience as a god king, this was true on any planet. He had never seen a sea race unite an entire world, unless the planet had no proper continents at all. It seemed the Celestial Fox clan had taken advantage of this situation, forcibly gathering more fortune for the demon continent and allowing demon and nymph emperors to emerge frequently, thereby seizing most of Phelan planet's fortune. Whether the endless blue sea was plagued by misfortune was hardly their concern. As he flew, radiating blessings and receiving faith feedback from the endless blue sea, Tang San continued to ponder. The main subject of his thoughts was how to set up a foundation for humanity, and what it would take to help them gain power. Enhancing their strength was undoubtedly necessary, but given the level humanity was at now, it was anybody's guess how many years it would take to become strong enough to contend with the demon continent. And since he couldn't actively hunt down the powerful beings on the demon continent, once he left and the continent discovered this threat, they would snuff it out in its cradle immediately. It was the only logical course of action. Therefore, humans needed more than just immediate strength. They needed opportunities, ample time to develop comprehensively, and the ability to make judgments on what benefited them. With these things in mind, Tang San felt that if humans had a cultivation path that was too focused on a single direction, like the bloodlines of demons and nymphs, that would greatly limit the expression of human creativity. Moreover, humans already had the demonic god transformation. When Tang San bestowed new cultivation methods upon humanity, should these old ones be erased? They represented a shameful history for humanity, a humiliating past, but were they supposed to be discarded just like that? No, that was not the way to go. Tang San had already made his decision on this matter. The demonic god transformation would be preserved. Though it was a source of shame, it was also part of history. It was precisely because of this shame that humanity needed to face their past and turn it into the driving force for growth and progress. Therefore, the legacy of demonic god transformation had to continue, although the manner in which bloodlines were passed on had to be amended. So, aside from this, what other abilities could he bring to humanity? This was the question Tang San had been tirelessly pondering. He had a few ideas in mind, but he needed to refine them. Time passed day by day as he flew by in deep contemplation, yet the endless blue sea, true to its name, failed to show him a shore. After Tang San left, human affairs were entrusted to Xiaohe's management, while his wife oversaw things in Kali City. This left Mei Gongzi with plenty of time. With Tang San absent, she devoted all her time to cultivation. Everyone believed she was an extraordinarily gifted individual, the greatest genius in the history of humans and demons alike. But only she knew that compared to Tang San, she was still lacking in many ways. His growth rate had long since surpassed her own. Mei Gongzi had always been proud from a young age, and all she did to become stronger. As a child, it was to protect herself and show the Peacock Demon clan that although she was of mixed blood, she was not inferior to them in any way. Then, as she grew older and began to understand the world, her mother started telling her about the sufferings of humanity, instilling in her the belief that she must always see herself as human and strive for humanity's survival and prosperity. She bore the responsibilities of the Redemption Society on her shoulders, and she worked tirelessly to become someone useful. Now, with Tang San helping her with those responsibilities, her efforts and determination had gradually shifted in purpose. Now it was more about keeping up with him, so that when he needed her, she could truly stand by his side and help. Since Tang San left, Mei Gongzi found that her cultivation of divine consciousness had not slowed but instead accelerated. Every day she received feedback from the Azura Sword, tempering her divine consciousness. Thanks to the faith energy absorbed by Tang San, her divine consciousness grew stronger daily. For the average demon or nymph, this was the hardest thing to cultivate, but for her it was simple, almost effortless. The core of her power was still her control of space. In order to improve in that respect, comprehension was essential, and her powerful divine consciousness greatly improved her insight, leading to rapid overall progress. At the same time, she hadn't neglected her cultivation of White Tiger transformation and Immortal Flame transformation. How to integrate the three major bloodlines into one was her biggest challenge now, especially merging the Immortal Flame transformation with the Peacock transformation. The result, after all, was a power that even the Undying Demon Emperor marveled at. In this regard, Tang San hadn't given her any specific advice. He only told her that to truly possess such a powerful ability, she needed to comprehend it on her own. Only then could this transcendent bloodline truly form. The moment she ascended to become an emperor would be the moment these two bloodlines truly fused. At that time, she would not just become the second Peacock Demon Emperor, but the first Sky Sovereign, a presence that would dominate the skies, unprecedented on the entire demon continent. Ever since she'd broken through to godhood, he had rarely given her specific guidance. He simply pointed her in the right direction, ensuring her cultivation wouldn't lose its way, and enhanced her divine consciousness through the Azura Sword, helping her gain deeper insights. With Tang San's departure, her mind completely calmed down. Over the past days of cultivation, she could feel herself making progress every day, not just in one area but comprehensively. This feeling was extremely encouraging, and she knew that her future advancement would simply require time. By now, Tang San had been gone for 7 days. The first 2 or 3 days were fine, but after 5 days, Mei Gongzi started to notice that her longing for him was growing. Missing someone was a special feeling, beautiful yet painful. She even felt that her cultivation as of late wasn't as smooth as usual, but of course she wouldn't call him back just because she missed him. What Tang San was doing was of utmost importance, not just for the two of them but for all humanity. Unless it was a truly extraordinary situation, she would never disrupt him. As Mei Gongzi emerged from her meditation, the first thing that surfaced in her mind was a certain someone's face, but then a sudden call echoed in her divine consciousness. It wasn't his voice, but that of Luo Qingzhu. Mei Gongzi gracefully stood up, taking a step forward naturally. Surrounded by a faint silver light, she appeared before Luo Qingzhu in the next moment. Sensing the faint spatial fluctuations around her, Luo Qingzhu couldn't help but praise her. Your control over space is better than mine. It's as if the power of space has completely merged with you. Mei Gongzi smiled slightly and said, Mother, you don't need to be so modest. When you became a great demon king, I wasn't even around. How can I compare to you? But I'll definitely work hard to catch up to you. Luo Qingzhu smiled affectionately. Since her husband's revival, her mood had been improving, and she had truly come to accept Mei Gongzi as her adopted daughter, caring for her even more than her own children. After all, how could she not be proud of this exceptional young woman who shared her bloodline? Her own children hadn't even reached the 10th order, while Mei Gongzi was already at the 11th, and there were no signs of her progress slowing down. She was destined to become an emperor in the future. The ancestral court just sent word, and I thought I should tell you immediately so you can be prepared, Luo Qingzhu said seriously. Mei Gongzi's heart tightened. Is it because of the last visit from sky-splitting city Lord Jinangua? Luo Qingzhu nodded and said, It's related. The ancestral court's message is that since you've officially become the Lord of Kali City, as the Lord of a main city, you need to consider issues of offspring to ensure the city's stability. So, they're asking how you plan to address the matter of a spouse. They are requesting a clear answer from you. Mei Gongzi frowned slightly and said, How am I supposed to answer that? Just tell them I don't have one. The ancestral court really is meddling too much. Can't they give people a break for a few days? Luo Qingzhu said calmly. The ancestral court is using ancestral rules and protocols. Everything they do stands on the grounds of etiquette. Even the White Tiger Demon Emperor can't speak on your behalf in this matter. That's why I wanted you to be prepared. You need to understand that the ancestral court will continue to exploit this issue. The visit of Jinangua was just a test. If it succeeded, that was the optimal outcome, and if it failed, then there were other measures to be taken. According to your father, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's objective is simple: to use this to win over the sky-splitting Demon Emperor and balance the internal relations of the Empyrean Dominion. After the fall of the Crystal Demon Emperor, the Phoenix race now has the upper hand, due to having the Undying Demon Emperor plus a second emperor. Their power is clearly dominant. The sky-splitting Demon Emperor is neutral, And there's a grudge between our Peacock Demon clan and the Phoenix race. If they can win him over, it would be ideal. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor has done a lot against you before, with your evaluation and the attack on the human settlement. These things naturally give rise to grudges. If they can leverage the sky-splitting Demon Emperor's son to draw you into a marriage alliance, these issues could be resolved satisfactorily, and they would draw you into their camp. The Ancestral Court's repeated inquiries clearly show they want you to make a decision regarding your human blood, so they can also decide whether they'll push you to become an emperor quickly. After all, you are the most likely candidate. Mei Gongzi couldn't help but retort, "Then I won't make a decision. What can they do to me?" Luo Qingzhu gently patted her hair and said, "This is not the time to act impulsively. Even if you don't take a stand, they will force you to. They will use the pretext that you have a duty toward the Ancestral Court to pressure you. We can refuse this time, saying you're still young, but it won't be long before new pressures arise. That's why I said you need to be prepared." Mei Gongzi nodded and said, "Thanks, Mother, I understand. Like Father said, we'll deal with whatever comes our way. I don't believe they can force me into marriage." She spoke confidently, knowing that she had the support of at least 3 emperors behind her. Of course, this couldn't be revealed unless absolutely necessary. Otherwise, it would mean showing all her cards, inevitably inviting the suspicion of other emperors, and making her path to emperorhood even more challenging. "So, should I refuse on your behalf?"
Mei Hongxi nodded.
"Yes. Let's see what tricks they come up with next. You should also let Tang San know about this, so he can be mentally prepared. I suspect the Ancestral Court's next moves will be swift." Luo Qingzhu didn't know that Tang San had embarked on a distant journey. Only a select few were aware of this. Mei Gongzi agreed to let Tang San know, but she had no intention of doing that just yet, so as not to disturb his insights while he was away. For her beloved, her heart was filled not just with love and trust, but also unwavering support. After 7 consecutive days of flying, Tang San estimated that he had covered at least 60,000 nautical miles, probably closer to 70,000. Due to his immense recovery ability boosted by faith energy, he didn't need to worry about fatigue, so he had only made brief stops on a few small islands along the way. As he continued to bless the endless blue sea, the amount of faith energy he received grew steadily, greatly aiding his progress, especially in restoring his divine consciousness. The wider he spread his blessings, the more feedback he received. After covering tens of thousands of nautical miles, the faith energy he received daily was now at least 3 times what it had been before. At this rate, in less than 2 years, his divine consciousness would reach the threshold of emperor-level strength, and that was not even accounting for further boosts as his blessings spread wider. The benefits of his divine seat were becoming increasingly apparent. However, this also made Tang San feel an increasing sense of urgency. The less time he spent on this plane, the less time he would have to accomplish anything for humanity. As he continued to fly, Tang San suddenly noticed something unusual. His divine consciousness was already incredibly strong, far beyond the initial stage of the 11th order. This allowed him to perceive a vast area, and especially over the endless blue sea. His own domain, the range and accuracy of his divine sense were almost absurd. This allowed him to instantly detect subtle changes across a vast area, though right now the change in temperature he was observing was anything but subtle. A massive area of the sea seemed to have suddenly warmed up, giving Tang San a strange feeling. The area of increased temperature was directly on his flight path, meaning that as he continued in the set direction, he would eventually see what was going on. But this was clearly abnormal. The endless blue sea was so immense that its temperature regulation was almost impossible to disturb. The rapid increase in temperature was clearly not due to weather or any other such factors. Tang San hadn't brought any sea beasts to guide him on this journey, but he hadn't ruled out the possibility of encountering the tainted yellow sea, or the ghostly nether blue sea that the sea beasts had previously mentioned. These were both places he wanted to explore. The formation of the tainted yellow sea was entirely due to misfortune. According to the sea beasts, its area wasn't very large yet, but it was continuing to grow and they could do nothing to stop it. Tang San wasn't particularly worried about this. With the sea plague issue being resolved and the sea beasts developing better, the sea itself would naturally start to purify the tainted yellow sea to some extent. However, if he encountered it, Tang San wouldn't hesitate to help speed up the purification process. Could it be that he was about to find it? Tang San continued to flap his wings, flying forward. Gradually, the surrounding temperature began to rise more rapidly, reaching downright abnormal levels. The sea below was calm, yet tinged with a faint red that seemed to match the change in water temperature. This red hue appeared to originate from beneath the sea, as if something glowing red was flowing under the sea floor. Then, an even stranger sight unfolded before Tang San. The distant sea grew increasingly reddish, and on the horizon, it turned into vast expanses of golden red. The light reflecting from the surface of the sea appeared distorted. What's this? The fire element in the air has grown significantly denser. This is clearly not the tainted yellow sea or the nether blue sea. What kind of place is this and what's going on here? The fire energy was so rich and intense that even the rainbow skyfire liquid within Tang San's body stirred with a sense of excitement. Tang San continued flying forward, and the fire energy grew increasingly active. Gradually, the water beneath him turned entirely crimson, with bubbles roiling on the surface. Although it still seemed like water, it was extremely hot, which meant the golden red waters ahead were even more so. No wonder the air above was distorted. It was as if Tang San had entered another world. The intense fire energy stimulated the immortal flame phoenix bloodline within him, making it extremely active. It eagerly absorbed the energy, strengthening itself and feeding back power to Tang San. This was the advantage of having multiple bloodline imprints. He had something suitable for every environment he was placed in. Tang San slowed his flight, fully unleashing his divine consciousness, as he quietly observed the changes in the Red Sea below. He soon made some startling discoveries. The water temperature below was well above boiling, yet it was not boiling. Moreover, despite these high temperatures, there were plenty of living creatures around. They were ordinary marine organisms, fish, shrimp, and other sea creatures, but their bodies were mostly shades of red, and they exuded a dense aura aligned with the fire element. This phenomenon struck Tang San as extremely peculiar. With such a heavy presence of the fire element and the resulting harsh conditions, it was remarkable that life could exist here. He even sensed the presence of plants deep on the seabed, also in shades of red but clearly thriving. This meant that despite the scorching seawater, life energy was still abundant. A very intriguing phenomenon. Tang San hovered above the surface without entering it. He reached out toward the sea, and immediately, a fiery red fish leapt out of the water and landed in his palm. The small fish had sharp teeth and, once caught by Tang San, seemed utterly unimpressed by his status as the sea god, immediately snapping at his hand. Tang San didn't forcibly suppress it. Instead, he gently shook his hand, emitting a soft energy that paralyzed the fish, while his divine consciousness focused on it. A moment into his divine consciousness scan, Tang San's expression changed subtly. He was surprised to discover a tiny energy core about the size of a grain of rice inside the small fish. Of course, the amount of energy within this core was very limited, but it was this energy core that allowed the fish to slowly absorb fire energy. The energy core converted this energy into life energy, so in other words, the fish survived by relying on the fire energy around it. But then things became interesting. The energy core also returned some of this life energy to the sea. If the entire sea was, then it had a fascinating balance. But what exactly was the energy core inside the fish? Tang San squinted slightly. An elemental heart. 2. On the demon continent, very few creatures truly possessed elemental hearts. Mei Gongzi had something like that, being the avatar of space, but it had taken her years of cultivation and tremendous effort to reach this level. Meanwhile, the elemental heart of this small fish was naturally much weaker than Mei Gongzi's, but it had perfect compatibility with fire and it seemed to be innate. Given the fish's negligible intelligence, this elemental heart undoubtedly made it easier for it to survive and grow stronger. Yet this was not the most interesting part. After all, living beings evolved new body parts all the time to adapt to the environment. No, the interesting thing about this particular elemental heart was that it also gave energy back to the environment. Tang San felt the signs of an epiphany, the first one in a long time, and his heart filled with joy. He was determined to thoroughly explore this peculiar sea area before him. Moreover, the creatures in this sea had another characteristic. They did not accept his blessings. Yes, His sea god blessing seemed ineffective in this region, and without blessings there was no faith. This explained why even such a small weak fish dared to attack the sea god. The fish was too dumb to realize Tang San was a peak predator, and it felt no reverence toward him either. Suddenly, as he was studying the fish, Tang San sensed something else. He looked up into the distance, releasing the small fish back into the water. In the distance, a dark red object was speeding toward him. Tang San's pupils flickered with purple light as he activated his purple demon eyes for a closer look. Then his eyes widened. What the? Is that a freaking rocket boat right there? At this point, the small boat was still dozens of miles away. Tang San was confident in his eyesight and believed there was no way the boat's occupants could see him from such a distance. Yet, the boat was heading straight toward him at high speed, propelled by flames jetting from its rear. The boat was made of a dark red material that Tang San could not identify, and it carried 8 beings on board. What surprised him even more was that the beings on the boat resembled humans. In fact, they looked almost entirely human, and they wore red clothes that covered their skin. They did not seem to have scales, shells, or anything else typical of a sea beast. Their skin was extremely fair and adorned with faint flame-like patterns. They had red hair, and their eyes were also various shades of red. Humans? No, that's not right. They aren't humans. But they're not demons or sea beasts either. What are they? They seem to have a great affinity for the fire element. It's as if they are all little avatars of fire. They also seem to have some level of technological development, and they're rather well organized. Interesting. Tang San's expression turned curious. How could such a race exist in this distant part of the sea? He didn't continue forward but remained in place, waiting for them to approach while using his divine consciousness to further sense the surroundings. The fire energy within the sea flowed from the deeper, darker waters, spreading toward his location. Then, as the fire element density decreased, the water naturally transitioned back to the vast blue sea. There seemed to be a balance line between the two, a boundary between a world of water and a world of fire. Soon, the small boat drew closer, and the humanoid beings on board spotted Tang San. Suddenly, a red light flashed from the boat, and a figure leapt into the air. Flames erupted from its back, propelling it toward Tang San like a meteor. Tang San simply hovered in the air with his wings spread. He did not release his sea god aura but calmly flew to meet the incoming figure. When the figure was about 100 meters away from Tang San, it began to slow down. The flames that had been propelling it from behind shifted downward and forward, reducing its speed and allowing it to maintain balance. The figure looked at Tang San and opened its mouth to speak. Tang San couldn't directly understand the language, but as an 11th order powerhouse, he could use his divine consciousness scan to grasp the message that was being communicated. The figure was asking who he was, where he had come from, and why he had come to the Magma Red Sea. I see, so this is called the Magma Red Sea. Tang San's heart stirred. Instead of speaking, he conveyed his thoughts through divine consciousness, knowing it was the only way the figure could understand him as well. I come from the demon continent, and I am human. I was exploring the sea and stumbled upon this extraordinary place. So, this is called the Magma Red Sea? Are you the masters of this sea? As they drew closer, Tang San could see the figure's appearance more clearly. He looked very much like a human male, save for the unusual red hair, red eyes, and the intense fire element aura he emitted. The fire energy in his body was extremely pure, and he also appeared to have an elemental heart, as he continuously absorbed fire energy from the environment while also radiating a certain amount of life energy. Judging from his aura, he had strength roughly equivalent to the 8th order on the demon continent, not weak at all. Upon receiving Tang San's message through divine consciousness, he was visibly startled, but a moment later he recovered and nodded at Tang San, then replied through his own divine consciousness, "We are the Fire Dawn clan, the rightful masters of the Magma Red Sea. Honorable guest, please into the Magma Red Sea and we shall host you." Tang San, naturally unafraid, nodded slightly and smiled. "That sounds right. Please lead the way." By now, the dark red boat had drawn near, and the Fire Dawn led Tang San toward it. They landed on the boat under the curious gazes of the other Fire Dawns. After all, aside from his black hair and black eyes, Tang San looked almost the same as they did. Could he be from a related clan? Was there even such a thing? Tang San smiled and greeted them with a nod. The small boat turned around and headed deeper into the magma Red Sea. I haven't asked, how should I address you, brother? Tang San asked the 8th Order Fire Dawn who had spoken to him earlier. The Fire Dawn replied, My name is Hua Zhao. I'm the captain of this outer sea patrol team. And you? My name is Tang San. Your magma Red Sea is truly fascinating. It's my first time seeing such a sea, with fire elements so dense that they continue to thrive within the endless blue sea. It's truly extraordinary. Hua Zhao explained straightforwardly. Our magma Red Sea exists because of the magma sacred mountain beneath the sea. All creatures here are blessed by the fire god, and have the ability to live off fire energy. The fire god grants us a rich concentration of fire energy through the magma sacred mountain, allowing us to sustain ourselves. In return, we infuse the magma sacred mountain with our own energy, maintaining a steady flow of energy. This is what has created this elemental sea. Hearing the words elemental sea, Tang San couldn't help but be moved. Indeed, this stable circuit of energy was the foundation that allowed the Fire Dawn clan and the strange creatures beneath the sea to thrive. The most remarkable aspect of the fire energy in this elemental sea was that it wasn't overpowering or aggressive. If anything, it was rather accommodating, allowing the local creatures to absorb it naturally. This was nothing short of a miracle, and Tang San suspected it was in fact the work of this very Fire Dawn clan. The so-called magma sacred mountain had to be some kind of volcano. In fact, there was definitely high volcanic activity around these parts. If not for some measure of control, the volcanic eruptions from the seabed should have brought devastation. It seemed the Fire Dawns had found a way to absorb the wildfire energy in the air and convert it into a more gentle energy. Perhaps that was their innate ability. Without this, they themselves might survive in the magma Red Sea, but there would be no such ecosystem of fire attribute creatures. It's truly remarkable. Did you make the fire energy in the magma Red Sea so gentle? It feels scorching but not harmful, which is why so many fire attribute creatures can thrive here. Hua Zhao hesitated for a moment, then said, I'm not really sure. You'll have to ask the elder when we meet. He clearly did know, and his attempt to hide it was rather clumsy. From his eyes, Tang San had already received the confirmation he needed. These Fire Dawns truly seemed like a simple and non-aggressive clan, just as Tang San's initial assessment suggested. The magma Red Sea covered a vast area, and the deeper the boat ventured, the denser the fire energy in the air became. It gave Tang San an unusual feeling, as if he was being embraced by flames. This all-pervasive fire energy was continuously soaking into him. Yet instead of turning into fire poison, as it would have happened elsewhere, he felt that even without his immortal flame phoenix bloodline, he wouldn't be harmed by this fire energy. In fact, this energy seemed to have a transformative quality, and it felt as if it was attempting to assimilate him in a way, which made it even more extraordinary. Of course, with his cultivation level, he wouldn't be easily assimilated, but in any case, this assimilation was not malicious. It felt more like protection. If a weaker creature were to enter the magma Red Sea, then without this fire energy transforming their body, survival would be difficult. This process could be called assimilation, but it could also be called a baptism of fire. Hua Zhao frequently glanced at Tang San, surprised to see that he remained unaffected. His eyes and hair showed no signs of change. He couldn't help but say, the deeper we go, the higher the temperature will get. The fire energy in the magma Red Sea protects those who enter, so you don't need to resist. Once you leave the magma Red Sea's range, the fire energy will slowly leave your body, and you will return to your original state. Tang San curiously asked, what about you? What would happen if you left the magma Red Sea? Hua Zhao shrugged. We are the Flame God's people, and we are destined to guard this place forever. We don't really leave, so I don't know what would happen if we spent a long time outside. Tang San nodded in understanding. These Fire Dawns were similar to humans, but they were highly dependent on fire energy, so leaving this environment would likely have a significant impact on them. Behind the boat, fire energy spewed out, propelling it swiftly through the waves. Tang San noticed that there was something akin to an array engraved on the bottom of the boat. This array drew in the fire energy in the air, pushing the boat forward at a high and steady speed. Since the array was powered by the energy readily available around the magma Red Sea, It required no power input from the fire dons. They only needed to adjust the speed and steer the boat. As Huazhao had warned Tang San, the farther they went into the magma Red Sea, the higher the temperature became. Visibility was very limited. The intense heat caused light to distort, so it was impossible for the naked eye to see anything beyond a very short distance. In addition, this distorted light made the world around them appear increasingly surreal and bizarre. This rise in temperature naturally posed no harm to Tang San. Its only effect was that it made his immortal flame phoenix bloodline start to boil, and as it absorbed the pure fire energy here, he could feel it evolving. Although Tang San had advanced to the 11th order in terms of internal energy, most of his bloodline imprints were still at the 10th order. This was an unavoidable issue, as the biggest factor impacting a demonic god transformation was bloodline concentration. Only the two transcendent bloodlines Tang San had personally created were different. While they could evolve by absorbing high-level bloodline power from the original demons and nymphs, they didn't need to. They were beyond the laws of this plane, and they were directly tied to Tang San's cultivation. As a result, during this time, only his golden armor transformation and chaos blue-silver emperor had reached the 11th order. But now, with the stimulation of the dense and pure fire element from the outside, he could clearly feel his immortal flame phoenix bloodline improving. He knew that if he stayed here to cultivate for a while, it wouldn't take him long to raise this bloodline to the 11th order as well. The seawater gradually changed from a pale red to a deep crimson, and it continued to darken. Tang San noticed that as they ventured deeper, the number of creatures in the magma Red Sea diminished, but every creature he sensed was much stronger than those in the outer sea. Most were at least of the 6th order, and he even sensed the presence of 9th order creatures. These were all mutated marine creatures, and they thrived in the magma Red Sea. In Tang San's perception, they all appeared as energy bodies that constantly absorbed fire energy and radiated life energy. Tang San could now also sense that the life energy emitted by these creatures was being drawn toward the deeper parts of the magma Red Sea. Clearly, something was absorbing this life energy. Undoubtedly, this was a cycle, a fascinating one. The fire element nourished all the creatures within this range, and in turn, these creatures emitted life energy back into the magma Red Sea, making the fire energy more gentle and less volatile, and allowing for continuous absorption. As the creatures grew, the life energy they released became stronger, further maintaining the balance of the magma Red Sea's ecosystem. What a remarkable place. As the saying goes, the world is vast and wonders never cease. If I hadn't ventured out, I could never have imagined that such a strange world existed. Tang San also noticed that the fire dons on the boat gradually became more energized as they traveled further into the magma Red Sea. The purer fire energy here was making them lively, and Tang San could even feel their cultivation improving ever so slightly. The boat was moving at an incredible speed, and as the concentration of fire energy increased, it sped up even more. Everything here felt so strange. The fire element was everything in this world, and everything depended on it for existence. If Tang San weren't certain that there were no other true gods in this plane besides himself, he would have certainly believed that a true fire god existed here. Compared to the endless blue sea, the magma Red Sea was just a small fraction. As the seawater turned dark crimson and the surrounding light began to dim, Tang San started to sense the core of the magma Red Sea. There was no landmass within the magma Red Sea, but Tang San could feel a massive volcano beneath the water. Lava continuously flowed along the seabed. Up ahead, large patches of mist began to appear, created by the contact between the lava and the seawater below. This mist rose into the sky, blotting out the sun and causing the light below to dim. The entire world here was a deep red. Strangely enough, the mist did not affect visibility as much as it would have been natural. Though the temperature was even higher than on the outskirts, the light distortion was not as severe, and things remained relatively clear. As they ventured farther in, they started to see other small boats, all of which were similar to theirs, each carrying a small team of Fire Dawn clan members. Huazhao pulled out a crimson conch from his chest pocket and blew into it, producing a low resonating hum. From afar, Tang San could feel a divine consciousness scanning their direction. Of course, the Fire Dawn clan having one or several god-level beings was nothing strange. If anything, in such a miraculous place as the magma Red Sea, It would have been strange if there wasn't one. Tang San didn't conceal his own divine consciousness. Instead, he released it calmly, conveying his goodwill. In the distance, a golden red light suddenly lit up and accelerated rapidly, shooting toward them like a meteor. This person was far, far faster than Hua Zhao. The elder has arrived, Hua Zhao said to Tang San. Tang San smiled and nodded, stepping forward to the front of the boat. A burst of flame descended from the sky and a bright light flashed, prompting a faint smile to appear on Tang San's face. A figure had appeared on the boat in that instant, yet the vessel continued forward without swaying in the slightest. The newcomer appeared to be a middle-aged man with strikingly handsome features. His eyes gleamed with golden red light, and he was carefully observing Tang San. Tang San nodded slightly, greeting him while transmitting his thoughts through his divine consciousness. Greetings, elder of the Fire Dawn clan. I am Tang San from the human race. The elder of the Fire Dawn clan carefully sensed Tang San's aura, and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. Greetings, honored guest. Your aura feels very unusual to me. I cannot fully discern your strength. No shit, I am an honored guest because you can't tell how strong I am, Tang San thought with an inward chuckle. Outwardly, he kept a calm smile as he responded. Perhaps that's because my abilities are different from your clan's. I was merely traveling through the vast blue sea when I happened upon this marvelous place. The elder introduced himself. My name is Huixing. You are welcome to visit our territory. As he spoke, he waved his hand, and the boat was instantly enveloped by dense fire energy, causing the surroundings to blur as the boat accelerated significantly. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. Our clan is currently celebrating the Flame God Festival. Welcome to the Magma Red Sea. As he spoke, he bowed slightly to Tang San, showing his respect. Tang San quickly returned the gesture and smiled. The honor is mine. I have traveled for many days now, but it was worth it even if just to witness the wonders of the Magma Red Sea. If you don't mind, could you please tell me a few things about this place? Huixing replied without hesitation. Of course. The Magma Red Sea has always welcomed new friends. This is a unique place even on the scale of the entire Phelan planet. You say you're human, which surprises me. I've heard of humans, an ordinary race living on the demon continent. I didn't expect they would produce someone of your caliber. Tang San's thoughts stirred. Elder Huixing, you're familiar with the demon continent? He realized that Huixing was being polite by calling humans an ordinary race. No one knew the situation of humanity better than Tang San, and the word ordinary was a gross overestimation. Huixing nodded and said, We are relatively close to the Solstice Empire, so we do interact with them, exchanging goods occasionally. Naturally, we are aware of the demon continent. Tang San nodded in understanding. I see. From Huixing's words, he had gained some understanding of his location. He had traveled eastward from the demon continent, and after a solid week of flying, he had circled around the northern hemisphere of Phelan planet. It seemed that he wasn't far from the western side of the demon continent. In other words, he was not far from the Solstice Empire. If he had continued flying according to his original plan, he would have probably seen the demon continent again within 2 or 3 days. What surprised him was that the Solstice Empire had ventured out to sea, and even interacted with the Fire Dawn clan. This was something worth investigating, Elder Huixing said. The Magma Red Sea exists because of the Fire God Mountain. Our Fire Dawn clan has a long history, and I cannot elaborate much on our origins. At any rate, we have always guarded the Fire God Mountain and lived near it. The mountain continuously ejects lava, which originates in the magma present underground, helping to relieve the planet's pressure. Our clan exists thanks to this, and by absorbing the fire energy and releasing life energy, we stabilize the ecosystem in this area, allowing everything to thrive. Within the Fire God Mountain, we built a city, Fire God City, and that is where our people live. Tang San asked in surprise, Is Fire God City below the sea? Huixing smiled slightly. To be precise, it's in the crater of Fire God Mountain. For our clan, nothing is more important than the sacred mountain, so naturally, it should be as close as possible. I suppose it does sound unbelievable to you, doesn't it? But worry not, you'll see it soon enough. With your strength, you should have no problems there. Tang San was shocked. building a city within the crater of an active volcano that was constantly erupting. This was beyond anything he had ever heard of. The Fire Dawn clan was truly formidable. Huixing continued. The Fire Dawn clan is what we call our own species, but in reality, all the creatures living in the Magma Red Sea can be considered part of a greater Fire Dawn race. Everyone coexists peacefully here, and we, the Fire Dawn people, act as the protectors of the whole group. We found out about humans because apparently we resemble you in appearance, yet from what we've heard, there doesn't seem to be any connection between us. Now that I see you, I believe that to be the truth. How curious. Tang San nodded. The world is vast and full of wonders. I'd say this is a kind of fate. It does seem like that indeed. Ah, we're here. There was no need for Huixing to say it. Tang San had already sensed it. The temperature around them had risen so much that the air no longer even rippled. Above them, scalding steam filled the sky, while the seawater ahead had shifted from dark red to a golden red hue and was boiling like a pressure pot. At the center, immense heat surged from below. Undoubtedly, this was the very core of the Magma Red Sea, and beneath the water was the volcano's crater. The boat sailed directly toward the mist-covered sea ahead, and just as they were about to reach the area, the space ahead suddenly opened up. The bow of the boat abruptly dipped downward, and a golden red glow enveloped all the Fire Dawns. The boat plunged straight down at a 90-degree angle, as if the sea had parted, forming a waterfall cascading below. Tang San remained unmoved, his feet seemingly anchored to the boat's deck as it plummeted downward. The surrounding scenery gradually became clearer. What Tang San saw was an immense volume of water pouring in from all directions, cascading into a gaping volcanic crater. The water clashed with the lava below, creating thick clouds of mist that billowed upward. Surrounding the waterfall like torrents of seawater, ripples of golden red light continuously flowed inward. It seemed that this golden red light was a manifestation of the energy that caused this waterfall phenomenon. Just as the boat was about to make contact with the lava, leveling out once more, a golden red light guided the boat through the waterfall. The light naturally repelled the seawater, and in the next moment, Tang San found himself entering a golden red world, carried by the boat. It was a cave, a golden red cave, with the surrounding rock walls entirely glowing with a golden red hue. By the heavens, the entire wall is made of ores of rare metals. Tang San thought to himself, it had to be some kind of top-tier fire attribute metal, maybe even several different metals. Even Tang San couldn't immediately identify these metals, but the dense fire energy they contained was nothing short of astonishing. The current carried the boat further into the cave, traveling about 100 meters before the water below began to recede and the boat came to a stop. Huixing gestured to Tang San. Please follow me, honored guest. As he spoke, he disembarked from the boat and headed in. There was a path running down the wall of the cave. Tang San disembarked and followed Elder Huixing down that path. They then turned into a side tunnel and continued descending. Since the surrounding cave walls were a glowing golden red, there was no need for additional light sources. As they made their way downward, the air was not thin at all, in fact it was rich with oxygen. After passing through 2 more caves and descending about 500 meters, Huixing stopped at an exit. Tang San stepped up beside him and was immediately met with a strange and magnificent sight. As it turned out, there really was a city beneath the sea, and its size was quite impressive. While it couldn't compare to the main cities of the Demon Continent, it was at least a quarter of their size. Building such a city at the base of a volcano deep underwater. What a monumental task! Tang San could even see lakes scattered throughout the city, though they seemed to be filled with magma rather than water. The city's buildings were mostly made of stone, a kind of dark red stone for the most part, and the massive cavern itself emitted a soft golden red glow, providing the city with ample light. This is truly a wondrous place, Tang San couldn't help but exclaim. Huixing smiled. This is our fire god city. Please, honored guest. He led the way down the steps. There seemed to be around 100 such caverns leading into Fire God City, and judging by the size of the city, there were likely over 1 million Fire Dawns living here. Tang San was now certain that the Fire Dawn people were the true core of this entire territory, while the other creatures dwelling in the Magma Red Sea were lesser members of their kind. In Fire God City, there was hardly any elemental energy present apart from fire. It was undoubtedly the ideal place for the Fire Dawn clan to live. In such an environment, it was impossible for fire attribute abilities not to appear. At the same time, if one did not have fire attribute power, then they needed an extremely high cultivation even just to survive. As they descended the steps, Elder Huixing said, "Honored guest, I'll have Huizhao take you to rest first. Our Fire God Festival is about to begin. It's the most important celebration for our clan. I need to report to the clan leader, but I'll return soon to escort you to our grand event." Tang San nodded. "Please don't mind me. I am just a random traveler. Go ahead and attend to your duties." Huixing quickly left, while Huizhao hurried forward, leading Tang San into Fire God City. Fire God City was vast, and as Tang San entered the city, he saw fire dawns everywhere. They glanced at him curiously, but there was no sign of fear, rejection, or wariness despite him obviously being an outsider. It appeared they had encountered visitors from other races before, and those encounters hadn't been of the aggressive kind. "Do you often have outsiders visit?" Huizhao shook his head. "Not really. It happens occasionally, but only those we accept are allowed to enter Fire God City. When the elder came to greet you earlier, that was a sign of his acknowledgement. Otherwise, we wouldn't have brought you here, and you would have been asked to leave the Magma Red Sea." Tang San curiously asked, "What are your criteria for approval?" "You must not be rejected by the fire god, and you must be at least somewhat attuned to the fire element. That's the basic standard. After all, even with the accommodation granted by the fire energy here, only beings that are in harmony with the fire element from the get-go can survive in the Magma Red Sea. Also, as I'm sure you've noticed, you need a certain level of strength to enter Fire God City." Tang San nodded. "That makes sense. Indeed, without enough strength it would be impossible to survive here. In this fire-rich world, anyone lacking sufficient cultivation would be eroded by the fire element within a very short time. The fire toxins here were no joke. The Fire Dawn clan members were generally taller than humans, and most of them were quite attractive. Their clothing was rather revealing too. Most of the men wore only shorts, and their pale skin sported strange red patterns, making them look quite distinctive. The women dressed slightly more modestly, but even they covered only the essential parts. They were beautiful, tall, and graceful, and most of them had pink eyes rather than deep red ones. As they walked through the city, they saw plenty of people laughing together, which Tang San assumed was due to the excitement of the upcoming celebration. Each of them seemed to be in high spirits. Fire God City had many similarities to the cities on the Demon Continent. There were no restaurants or inns, but there were some shops selling various items. Tang San was naturally interested in checking out the goods these shops had to offer. But since this was his first visit, he continued following Huizhao deeper into the city. As they got closer to the city center, the buildings became larger. Huizhao led Tang San to a towering structure and said, "This is where we host our guests. All visitors stay here. Please wait here for a while." "I'll follow your lead, Captain Huizhao. Whatever you arrange is fine." The guest house had 3 floors, all made of stone. As soon as they entered, 2 Fire Dawn women approached. Huizhao gave them a few instructions, and the 2 women immediately turned their curious gazes toward Tang San, both giggling. Huizhao approached Tang San with a smile, saying, "They're very curious about you. After all, you're the first human to visit us. Seeing you has made us realize that the nymphs from the Solstice Empire were telling the truth. Humans really do look a lot like us. If you were to change your hair and eye color to red, you'd be indistinguishable from our clan. Anyway, the girls are saying you're handsome and asking if you'll be joining our Fire God Festival." Tang San smiled. Why not? I have to say, for me as well, it feels as if I'm walking among a bunch of red-haired humans. We really do look alike." At that moment, 2 Fire Dawn girls had already stepped forward, gesturing for Tang San to follow. Tang San nodded at them and followed them up to the 2nd floor. The room arranged for Tang San was about 40 square meters and was rather empty. It lacked almost all basic amenities, most importantly a washroom. He wondered how the Fire Dawns handled such matters. Perhaps they didn't have those needs at all? The room had a bed and nothing else, but there was a window through which Tang San could observe the outside. One of the Fire Dawn girls, with a playful smile, said a few words that Tang San's divine consciousness interpreted as, "Honored guest, please rest here." Her gaze was bold and without a hint of fear despite Tang San being an outsider. Tang San smiled and nodded. "Thank you." The two girls left, closing the door behind them. Tang San walked to the window and looked outside. Without even needing to use his divine consciousness, he could sense the lively atmosphere of the Fire Dawn clan. The entire Fire God City was filled with excitement, clearly due to the upcoming celebration. He really had arrived at the right time. This was truly a wondrous place, and Tang San was curious about what the Fire God Festival would be like. It would be interesting to experience. Ever since arriving at the Magma Red Sea, Tang San had felt insights forming within him. Here, the entire Fire Dawn clan relied on the fire energy here for survival, and their innate abilities were a result of their affinity with fire. This was quite likely a unique situation. The fire element here was so rich that it allowed the Fire Dawns to form an elemental heart. What Hua Zhao mentioned earlier about outsiders becoming attuned to the fire element upon entering the Magma Red Sea was likely the process of forming an elemental heart. With Tang San's cultivation, he wouldn't be affected, but for the weaker sea creatures that wandered into the Magma Red Sea, there were only two possible outcomes. Either they had no affinity with fire, in which case they would be forced to return to the endless blue sea, or they did have an affinity, in which case they would be permeated by the fire energy here, gaining an elemental heart and becoming part of this world. For the weaker sea beasts, this was not a bad thing. This particular elemental heart did release life energy back into the environment, but the fire energy here was simply too rich for this to have any ill effect. In fact, due to the constant nourishment of fire energy, their vitality would instead grow stronger, and their lifespans would be greatly extended. But if that was the case for sea beasts, would it also be the case for humans? What if a human came here? If they were nourished by the fire energy, would they gradually turn into members of the Fire Dawn clan? Or, if not fully transformed, wouldn't they at least have the possibility of giving rise to their own elemental heart? Elements were the purest form of power in any plane, and if humans could generate an elemental heart, it would obviously be a great thing. This would mean that humans would gain the ability to control that particular element. With things as they stood, humans had no innate abilities like a blank sheet of paper, but there was an obvious inherent advantage to a blank sheet of paper. Anything could be written on it. At the same time, everyone's physique had an innate affinity for different elements, and Tang San was now fairly certain that if someone with a physique attuned to the fire element came to this Magma Red Sea, the chances of forming a fire elemental heart would be very high. And even if it didn't work, they could leave without any harm. This was definitely a course of action worth exploring. In fact, if this worked for fire, there was a high chance that it could also work for other elements. If humans could access an elemental sea like the Magma Red Sea, they might awaken elemental abilities, and these elemental abilities would not be something external to themselves but innate. It would be as if they'd been born with these abilities to begin with. As for how such an elemental sea could be formed, that was a different matter altogether. Coming here had clearly broadened Tang San's perspective. Being baptized by pure and gentle elemental energy, and relying on one's natural elemental affinity to develop an elemental heart was undoubtedly an excellent cultivation path. Elemental energy existed everywhere in nature after all. Aside from unique places like the Magma Red Sea, the very atmosphere contained energy pertaining to various elements. As long as one absorbed the energy they were attuned to during cultivation, they could undoubtedly continue to cultivate. On Phelan Planet, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was abundant, and it was rich in elemental energy. Mei Gongzi cultivated using the power of space through her peacock transformation. Though it was a power stemming from her bloodline, it was still elemental control nonetheless. Pure elemental control was definitely one of the most suitable paths for humans. With human creativity, once they could control elements, they would surely find countless ways to cultivate and develop a wide range of techniques and abilities. A faint smile appeared on Tang San's face. It seemed that he needed to start working on elements. Once he returned, he planned to bring some people to the outskirts of the Magma Red Sea to test if it was possible for them to acquire an elemental heart. If it was possible, then the next question would be how to form an elemental sea in the human world, and how to pass down the method of creating one. He believed that an elemental sea could be formed through arrays, and with the abundance of energy in this plane, it was unlikely to be an overly difficult challenge. Then humans with strong elemental affinity could take this path. while those with weaker affinity could follow another path, or acquire a demon or nymph bloodline and use the demonic god transformation. The more Tang San thought about it, the clearer his mind became, and he couldn't help but grow a bit excited. He began silently simulating how to create an elemental sea in his mind. Controlling elements was undoubtedly a fascinating thing. During his time away, the construction of the new Skytree realm should have already started. Once the islands were connected, everything would proceed much more smoothly. A human world would finally emerge. As Tang San was deep in thought, there was a knock on the door. Tang San opened the door and saw one of the two young girls who had guided him earlier. She was holding a tray with several bright red fruits on it. "Greetings, honored guest. These are fire heart fruits, a specialty of Fire God City. They're great for refining fire energy and suitable for all beings to consume. Please enjoy." Tang San accepted the tray and quickly thanked her. The language was still a barrier, so he had to communicate with her using divine consciousness. The girl blinked at him and smiled. "Are you a god, honored guest? I feel like your thoughts just appear in my mind, and I understand them immediately. You must be really powerful." Tang San smiled and nodded. "I guess you could say that." The girl looked at him, blinking her large eyes. "So, during the Fire God Festival, if I come look for you, will you turn me down?" Tang San was momentarily stunned. "I don't even know what the Fire God Festival is about yet. I really don't know how to answer you." The girl giggled. "The Fire God Festival is a celebration of freedom. It's the moment when the Fire God blesses us. The Fire God blesses all free choices, just like how fire freely spreads through the air." Tang San's heart stirred, and he recalled some rather peculiar customs he had encountered in other planes. He quickly replied, "I really can't give you a definite answer now. Let's talk again when the festival starts." The girl was clearly disappointed by his answer. She shot him a sideways glance before turning and walking away. Tang San closed the door and couldn't help but shake his head in exasperation. Should he join in on this free-spirited Fire God Festival or not? He placed the tray on the bed, picked up one of the 6 fruits on it, and scanned it with his divine consciousness, immediately sensing strong energy fluctuations. This fruit contained extremely pure fire energy. He placed a fire heart fruit into his mouth, and instantly, a warm, tasteless heat slid down his throat and merged into his body, making him feel warm all over. The immortal flame phoenix bloodline imprint absorbed these pure fire energy without hesitation. Although the total amount wasn't much for Tang San, the purity of the energy deeply impressed him. For weaker fire attribute beings, this would be an excellent resource. Unfortunately, it didn't have much effect on him, so he decided to just stow away the rest of the fire heart fruits away. They would surely prove valuable for his research. At that moment, Tang San suddenly heard loud cheering from outside. It seemed as though the entire Fire God City had erupted with excitement all at once. Was the celebration about to begin? Just then, his senses stirred, and there was another knock at the door. This time it was Elder Huixing. "The celebration is about to begin. I would like to invite you to come and watch." Tang San smiled and nodded. "Thank you for the invitation." Huixing led Tang San out of the residence, then said, "It's about to start. Let's fly over. It'll be faster that way." It seemed that the Fire God City really didn't have many taboos. Flying above a main city of the demon continent without permission would have earned him severe punishment. The two of them took off simultaneously, with Huixing leading the way. Tang San didn't use his dragon rock transformation. Instead, he simply propelled himself using his own internal energy and flew alongside the elder. The elder glanced at him in surprise. He had naturally assumed that Tang San must have some fire attribute ability to avoid being affected in this place. So the fact that he wasn't using wings or fire attribute abilities while flying was rather unusual. After all, in this city, only fire energy existed. What kind of energy was this that Tang San could use it so freely here? And why did he seem to have so much of it? What he didn't know was that Tang San's mysterious heaven technique had nothing to do with elements. As long as it was the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, it could be used regardless of the elemental attribute. Flying in the air, Tang San looked down and saw Fire God City teeming with people. Countless fire dons were singing and dancing in the streets, all showing expressions of excitement. The entire city had become lively as a result. Tang San followed Huixing as they flew toward the city center. From afar he saw a platform shaped like a torch. Below it was a vast square where at least tens of thousands of fire dons had gathered, all looking up at the platform and cheering loudly. Huixing led Tang San directly toward the platform, which spanned several hundred square meters. At the moment, quite a few people were standing on it, from which Tang San immediately sensed powerful auras. Indeed, of the dozens of figures there, almost all were god-level powerhouses. Landing gracefully on the platform, Elder Huixing approached a handsome middle-aged man, over 2 meters tall, and bowed slightly in respect, saying, "Clan leader, the honored guest has arrived." The man referred to as the clan leader turned to Tang San, his expression kind as he smiled and transmitted, "Welcome, guest from afar. Though I've heard of humans before, this is my first time seeing one. As rumors say, you do resemble our kin. You're most welcome here." Tang San smiled and nodded. "Greetings, clan leader. I am Tang San." At that moment, a voice filled with surprise rang out. "Are you really human?" Yes, it was a voice and not a divine consciousness transmission, and the words it spoke were in the common language of the demon continent. Tang San turned his head and saw what seemed to be a young man. He had a tall, upright figure and a somewhat unusual appearance. He was certainly not ugly, but neither was he handsome in the traditional sense. His eyes were somewhat larger than normal, making his facial proportions look a bit off. Just one glance allowed Tang San to understand the background of this person. This was not a member of the Fire Dawn clan. Rather, the aura of this young man belonged to a clan that Tang San had encountered during the Ancestral Court's elite competition. Fire God City was rich in fire energy, and for this race, the abundance of fire energy stimulated their bloodline, making it impossible for them to conceal their aura. As expected, it's the Scorching Sunflower clan. When Huixing told him earlier about their connection to the Solstice Empire, Tang San had immediately thought of the Scorching Sunflower clan. With their pure fire attribute, it made perfect sense for them to be close to the Fire Dawn clan, but he hadn't expected to encounter them here right now. Moreover, not only was the young man from the Scorching Sunflower clan, but he also had 2 other powerful members of the clan with him. They seemed to be demon kings while the young man himself was a great demon king. With that in mind, perhaps he wasn't really that young after all. Tang San nodded and said, "That's right, I'm human." The young man asked in surprise, "Who would have thought a human could come here? What is your other bloodline, demon or nymph?" Upon confirming Tang San's identity as a human, the young man's expression grew visibly more disdainful. Although humans were treated somewhat better in the Solstice Empire compared to the Empyrean Dominion, they were still merely vassals or slaves. Thus, he didn't feel it inappropriate to directly use his divine consciousness to scan Tang San, an act that would have earned him a harsh scolding, if not a direct attack, from one of his demon or nymph peers. Tang San's expression remained calm, but he sealed himself off, forming a divine consciousness barrier on the surface of his body and unceremoniously blocking the young man's probing. The young man's expression shifted slightly. The fact that he'd failed to scan this human meant that he was at least at the 10th order, and to his knowledge there were extremely few humans at that level. Just as he prepared to intensify his probing, the voice of the Fire Dawn clan leader interrupted him. "Scorching King, you are all guests from afar, and our clan's grand ceremony is about to begin." A faint red glow naturally rose from the clan leader's body, and an invisible pressure burst forth, instantly placing a barrier between Tang San and the young man who was referred to as the Scorching King. Scorching King? Tang San's heart stirred, and he immediately realized that this young man's status had to be quite extraordinary. After all, not every demon king or great demon king in a major clan was granted such a title. The young man cast a cold glance at Tang San before turning to the clan leader and saying, "Apologies, clan leader. I was just curious about how a human could have the ability to come here. As I've mentioned to you before, in our land, humans are merely vassals and slaves. I didn't expect a human to be able to reach the level of a nymph king. Please go ahead and start the ceremony." The Fire Dawn clan leader smiled slightly, seeming unfazed. He gestured for Tang San to take his place on the opposite side, separated from the Scorching King. He then stepped to the front of the platform, gazing down at the Fire Dawn clan members who had already begun singing and dancing. He called out in a loud voice, "Children of the Fire God, His voice carried far, and without warning, the light in the entire underground cavern suddenly became a bit brighter. Tang San stood calmly, showing no sign of emotion, but the gears in his brain were spinning at breakneck speed. When the clan leader stopped the Scorching King's divine consciousness from probing him earlier, he had sensed something. This clan leader actually possessed a trace of divinity. The kind of divinity Tang San was thinking of was not a matter of cultivation, but rather the qualitative difference between a true god and lesser beings. Although the clan leader clearly did not possess a divine seat, Tang San was far too familiar with divine seats not to see the traces of one. This made him even more intrigued about this whole place and the people here. What was the true origin of the Fire Dawn clan, and how could divinity appear among them? As the clan leader's voice rang out, the previously boisterous fire god city fell into an eerie silence. The clan leader raised his right hand, and a long scepter slowly appeared in his palm. The shaft was about 3 meters long, and it had a large spherical gemstone at its top. The gemstone wasn't red but rather an unusual rainbow color, with multicolored flames dancing upon it. When the flames appeared, Tang San's heart trembled. What kind of fire is this? It's not rainbow skyfire liquid, but it definitely has some connection to it. Tang San couldn't quite place it, but he was undoubtedly familiar with it from somewhere. The flame emanating from the multicolored gemstone was the most powerful fire Tang San had ever witnessed. Apart from his own rainbow skyfire liquid, the energy it radiated was incredibly fierce, and its level was extremely high. This was true divine fire, the kind that could only be born in a divine realm. Coupled with the divinity emanating from the Fire Dawn clan leader, Tang San was almost certain that the Fire Dawns were not a native species of Phelan planet. They likely came from another world, possibly even a divine realm. But if that is the case, then how come they are allowed to live on Phelan planet? I suppose this means that the Fire Dawn's potential is far below mine. They have no real chance of becoming true gods, or else the plane wouldn't allow them to grow. Tang San also noticed that when the Fire Dawn clan leader took out the scepter, the Scorching King on the other side had a visible emotional reaction. Though the latter hid it well, Tang San's divine consciousness was exceptionally sharp. Moreover, as a true deity with a divine seat, his divinity was far stronger than that of the clan leader. When the divine scepter appeared, the surrounding fire energy became intensely concentrated, making everyone's divine consciousness fluctuations hard to read. However, that did not apply to Tang San. He immediately felt the Scorching King's desire. Pretty greedy now, aren't we? Tang San now had a fairly good idea of why the Scorching King was here. To be called the Scorching King, this figure clearly held a high position in the Scorching Sunflower clan. He had to be one of the leaders, and if he really was young enough, then he was very likely an emperor seedling. But Tang San was well aware that the Sunborn Nymph Emperor was a cultivar, so to say. His bloodline was a mutated hybrid that was almost impossible to replicate. So if the Scorching Sunflower clan wanted to produce another emperor, they were likely better off pursuing a different approach. Now that the Crystal Demon Emperor had fallen, a position to ascend to emperor had opened. Demons were already hard at work, evident by their attempt to push Mei Gongzi into a marriage and have her ascend. Nymphs, in the meantime, were also striving just as hard. If they could produce another emperor, the Solstice Empire would not only stop being suppressed by the Empyrean Dominion, but the number of emperors on both sides would even out. Under the leadership of the Sunborn Nymph Emperor and the Earthshade Nymph Emperor, they could even reverse the balance of power. There was no doubt that this divine fire, imbued with true divine energy, would be highly attractive to the Scorching Sunflower clan. Fire attribute nymphs that embodied the pure yang aspect of existence. Damn, I really came here at the right time. No matter what, I can't let this Scorching King succeed. The Scorching King's luck was really quite good. If he managed to profit from this opportunity, how could Mei Gongzi become an emperor later? At the very least, it would become extremely difficult, and at the same time, it would throw a wrench into Tang San's own plans. In that brief moment, Tang San had already made his decision. Whatever the Scorching King intended to do, he would stop it. As for the Fire Dawn clan, it was clear the Scorching King wasn't planning to take anything by force. The Fire Dawn clan's overall strength was quite formidable. On this platform alone, there were more than 30 powerhouses at the 10th order or higher, and a not insignificant number at the 11th order. The Fire Dawn clan leader himself was at the peak of the 11th order. With the clan leader's scepter and being in this ideal environment for the Fire Dawn clan, even if the Sunborn Nymph Emperor personally arrived, they might not be able to take down the Fire Dawn clan. It could even lead to a mutually destructive situation. Thus, the Scorching King would definitely try other means to get what he wanted. And although he was late to the party and had zero claim to the scepter, Tang San was more than willing to spoil his plans. This thought brought a faint smile to Tang San's face. The Fire Dawn clan leader raised the scepter high, and a soft rainbow-colored halo immediately radiated from the gemstone decorating the scepter, spreading in all directions. It appeared much like a rainbow-colored lotus that illuminated everything around it. Under the glow of this rainbow halo, the surrounding fire energy seemed to calm down significantly, as if it was bowing its head in the presence of the scepter. Below, the Fire Dawns knelt on one knee, facing the platform. The Fire Dawn clan leader spoke solemnly. "Children of the Fire God, today marks another of our annual Fire God festivals. This is the day of the Fire God's blessings. I wish for every child of the Fire God to burn freely like the flames. May the Fire God's grace forever descend upon us. On behalf of the Fire God, I bless you. On behalf of the Fire God, I bestow upon you these gifts." As he spoke, the scepter in his hand began to glow, and the rainbow-colored halo quietly scattered, turning into specks of light that floated in all directions, merging into the bodies of every Fire Dawn in the city. Even Tang San was touched by some of the rainbow light. Immediately, the rainbow skyfire liquid and the immortal flame phoenix bloodline in his body became active, absorbing the mystical fire, and he could feel a distinct surge of excitement from within. Within the specks of light, there was clearly a presence of divinity, and this divine blessing felt similar to the one he himself had bestowed upon the endless blue sea. It evoked a sense of reverence in Tang San's heart. He immediately understood that this was the same as his own blessing. He blessed the sea and gained the power of faith in return, the natural cycle of giving and receiving. Such was the way of deities. However, the Fire God's divinity was limited, and its blessings could only extend within the boundaries of Fire God City, unable to reach far beyond. Once this shred of divine energy entered Tang San's body, it was almost instantly absorbed. Even if the true Fire God stood before Tang San, they would still have had to bow in submission before a supreme God King. Though Tang San had an instinctive feeling of respect toward a fellow true God that followed the righteous path, he felt in no way compelled to bow like the others. He could vaguely sense the faith-filled radiance from all the Fire Dawns in Fire God City, which was converging toward the scepter. At the top of the scepter, the cluster of rainbow flames burned brightly, absorbing the faith energy. It was clear that the faith energy was being channeled into the scepter, rather than being absorbed by the Fire Dawn clan leader himself. This was the problem of lacking a divine seat. Whatever trace of divinity existed had to rely on a divine artifact to maintain itself. At the same time, this divine energy was also the critical force that allowed the Fire Dawn clan to exist as it did. Tang San now understood how the Fire Dawn clan was able to keep the volcano's eruptions mild and maintain Fire God City and the Magma Red Sea. This divine energy had to be the key to these feats. How intriguing! It seems that a fire god from a divine realm somewhere died, causing issues for the people they once protected. Somehow, these people ended up here on Phelan Planet. The fire god's blessing lasted for a full 10 minutes before the rainbow-colored halo gradually began to fade. The Fire Dawn clan leader slowly lowered the scepter in his right hand. The rainbow halo on the scepter became even more intense as it illuminated the platform, bathing everyone there in divine light and bestowing them blessings of higher intensity. The clan leader shouted loudly, "The grace of the gods has descended. Now is your time of freedom and joy. Open your hearts and enjoy everything freely. The Fire God Festival begins." Cheering erupted once again, echoing throughout the cavern with shouts of excitement and joy. Countless Fire Dawns danced and sang in celebration, and for a moment, Fire God City seemed to transform into a sea of happiness. The Fire Dawn clan leader's face was also full of smiles, and the scepter in his hand continued to emit light, bathing every powerhouse nearby in the divine radiance of the artifact. Under this light, everyone present would receive at least some benefit. Tang San could already feel his immortal flame phoenix bloodline imprint evolving rapidly. If he could continue to bathe in this divine light, His bloodline wouldn't take long to evolve to the 11th order. At that moment, the Scorching King suddenly stepped forward, approached the Fire Dawn clan leader, and bowed respectfully. He then spoke up. "Honored clan leader, I wonder if my proposal last time was able to move the fire god. I have returned with sincerity and brought an emperor seed from my ancestor." A glimmer flashed in the Fire Dawn clan leader's eyes, revealing a hint of hesitation as his gaze instinctively fell on the scepter in his hand. "There's no need for formalities, Scorching King. After your proposal, I've had serious discussions with my people. This is a matter of great importance. In our clan, each clan leader only has one opportunity in their lifetime. Moreover, it concerns the relationship between our two clans." The Scorching King quickly sensed the hesitation and hurriedly added, "Clan leader, the fire god's aura is weakening. This is the greatest issue your clan faces. The range of the magma Red Sea can only be maintained as it is. Further expansion is impossible. In this situation, if my grandfather's emperor seed is absorbed by the fire god's scepter, it will ensure the scepter's power for at least another 1,000 years. Isn't this crucial for your clan? I can also promise you that if I become an emperor in the future, I will feed the scepter another emperor seed after 1,000 years. What do you think?" His eyes were full of sincerity, and it was clear that his final words had struck a chord with the Fire Dawn clan leader. One emperor seed had made him hesitant, but two would indeed be of great significance to the Fire Dawn clan. In that case, then, the Fire Dawn clan leader was just about to agree. But at that moment, a clear voice interrupted him. "If you are concerned about maintaining the divine power of the fire god's scepter, perhaps I have a solution as well." As soon as these words were spoken, all the Fire Dawn clan powerhouses and the 3 scorching sunflowers instinctively turned their gazes toward the source of the voice. The speaker was, of course, none other than Tang San. He had already made up his mind. Whatever the Scorching King intended to do, he would make sure to ruin it. And now he knew exactly what the Scorching King intended to do and how to ruin it in the most appropriate way. The Scorching King was willing to offer up 2 emperor seeds, and it was obvious why. He clearly intended to connect to the scepter and draw its power to ascend. There was no way Tang San would allow that to happen. At the same time, he was not just spouting empty words to piss people off. The weakening of the fire god's scepter's divinity was ultimately due to the lack of a divine seat's support. In terms of strength, Tang San definitely couldn't compare to an emperor just yet. But when it came to divinity, there was no being in this plane who could match him. So, seeing that the clan leader was about to agree to the Scorching King's request, Tang San immediately spoke up to interfere. He was not worried about the consequences. After all, aside from a select few in Kali City, no one had any idea who he was. During the Ancestral Court's elite tournament, he had participated under the guise of Azura. Moreover, after ascending to godhood, his appearance and aura had both undergone significant changes. Since this wasn't the Demon Continent, nor Kali City, Tang San wasn't worried about his identity being exposed. The Scorching King's gaze was now filled with icy killing intent. For demons and nymphs alike, nothing was more important than becoming an emperor. This outsider, a mere human at that, was ruining his opportunity at this crucial moment, which was no different from stopping his ascension to the emperor level. To the Scorching King, this was no less of an offense than having his parents slain and his spouse stolen. How could he not be utterly furious? Ridiculous. Since when does the son of a slave have the right to speak among nobles? What can you possibly have to offer? What, you also have a fire attribute emperor seed? The Scorching King roared angrily. The Fire Dawns all looked at Tang San with curious gazes. The Fire Dawn clan and the Scorching Sunflower clan had a long history of interaction and knew each other well. But Tang San was new to them. Due to their own immense strength and the unique nature of the Magma Red Sea, the Fire Dawn clan was generally friendly to outsiders. After all, who would dare to offend them here? Tang San had been treated as an honored guest because he looked similar to them and was a powerhouse above the 10th Order. No one had expected him to speak out at such a critical moment, and they were none too pleased about it. After all, his interference could impact the relationship between the Fire Dawn clan and the Scorching Sunflower clan. Because of this, the clan leader's expression darkened. He spoke in the common language. "Honorable friend, I would like to remind you that we invited you here only as a spectator. Those words carried weight and the meaning was clear. They had invited him to observe simply because they were being gracious hosts. If he started trouble, he would be expelled if not worse. Tang San remained calm and unhurried. Rather than responding to the clan leader's thorny statement, he transmitted a message directly to the latter's divine consciousness. Upon hearing his words, the clan leader's expression changed dramatically, and he cried out in shock. "How do you know that?" Seeing the clan leader's sudden look of astonishment, the surrounding Fire Dawn clan powerhouses were stunned and immediately gathered around. They had never seen the clan leader have such an uncontrolled reaction, let alone in front of strangers. The reason for the clan leader's shock was in fact quite simple. Tang San had just transmitted to him, "Your clan is not native to Phelan Planet but came from the outside." How could he not be stunned? Ignoring the audience, Tang San replied, "It's because of the divinity emanating from the fire god's scepter. Phelan Planet is not a divine realm itself, nor is it associated with any divine realm. In this case, any true divinity present here must be from an external source. Your clan is currently using your people's faith to nourish the divinity, but without a divine seat, it's like a floating plant without roots. This is why the divinity is gradually weakening. An emperor seed would certainly do something, but I think you are well aware of the truth. Not only would it not truly stabilize the divinity for 1,000 years, but under the influence of the seed, the divinity might even change hands in the future. I believe that would be a rather poor outcome for you. As you just said, your clan has treated me as an honored guest and friend. How could I remain silent at such a crucial moment and allow you to fall into a severe crisis?" Since Tang San was speaking through voice transmission, the Scorching King couldn't hear any of it. But he certainly could see the Fire Dawn clan leader's expression change, from shock to seriousness, then to hesitation. It was clear that Tang San's words had had an effect. "Clan leader, don't be swayed by his demonic tricks," the Scorching King hurriedly said. Tang San smirked and retorted, "I'm human, not demon. If anything, you're the one spouting flowery bullshit." The Fire Dawn clan leader stared intently at Tang San and said, "He does make a good point, however. You say that you are able to revitalize the fire god's aura, but anyone can say anything they want. Am I supposed to believe you because your voice is louder?" Tang San replied, "My voice may not be louder than his, but actions speak louder than words. I can prove it right now if you agree, and I need no payment for it. Just take it as a small gift from a guest." As he spoke, he raised his right hand and snapped his fingers, causing a small cluster of rainbow-colored flames to appear at his fingertips. Upon seeing the small cluster of rainbow flames, the surrounding Fire Dawns were startled. The color and aura of this flame were strikingly similar to those of the fire god's scepter's flame. "It's not the rainbow lotus, but... The clan leader's gaze was full of curiosity. Although Tang San's flame wasn't exactly the same as the rainbow flames of the fire god's scepter, it was clearly close enough for him to feel intrigued. Tang San flicked the small cluster of rainbow skyfire liquid toward the clan leader. "You can inspect it first, clan leader. If you think it's suitable, let the fire god's scepter absorb it. I believe that the scepter's flame is the progenitor of all fire. It will have no problem devouring my flame. And then, you'll see the effect it has on the scepter's divinity." As the small cluster of rainbow skyfire liquid floated in front of him, the clan leader's divine consciousness immediately probed it. As a fire attribute being, he could instantly tell that this was pure fire energy with very unique properties and of a very high level. At the same time, it gave him a strange sense of familiarity. As he was still investigating with his divine consciousness, the fire god's scepter in his hand seemed to sense the presence of the rainbow skyfire liquid. A streak of rainbow flame instantly swept over and devoured the small cluster of fire instantly. In an instant, the gemstone of the fire god's scepter erupted with light, and all the Fire Dawns around could clearly sense the aura emanating from the scepter. It seemed joyous. The Fire Dawn clan leader stared at Tang San in shock. Actions indeed spoke louder than words. As the wielder of the fire god's scepter, he could clearly feel that the scepter's divinity had slightly increased. Though the amount was small, that was irrelevant. Nothing they had ever done, had been able to increase it in any way. At the same time, it had stopped dissipating, and that, in and of itself, was a miracle. The rainbow skyfire liquid had been refined and nurtured by Tang San, and with his divine seat restored, all of his abilities and divine items were naturally imbued with his divinity. Thus, the rainbow skyfire liquid also contained a trace of his divine power. Since Tang San had no intention of seizing control of the fire god's scepter, he simply let go of the small amount of divinity within the liquid and let it fuse with the scepter. This, in effect, allowed the scepter to receive the sea god's blessing, halting the dissipation of its divinity. The Fire Dawn clan leader, having wielded the fire god's scepter for so long, knew its aura better than anyone. This powerful divine artifact was the core of the entire Fire Dawn clan. In fact, it could even be said that the scepter was the very reason for the clan's existence. For many years, the Fire Dawn clan had tirelessly worked to nurture the artifact, hoping that one day the fire god's consciousness could be revived through it. However, things didn't go as they had hoped. Over time, not only did the fire god's consciousness fail to revive, but the divinity of the scepter also continued to weaken. For the Fire Dawn clan, this was absolutely disastrous. If the scepter's divinity weakened to the point where it could no longer sustain everything here, the clan would likely lose their homeland, and such a catastrophe would spell their downfall. Over the years, they had cooperated with the Scorching Sunflower clan, providing them with many precious resources from the Magma Red Sea in exchange for items that could help nourish the fire god's scepter, thereby slowing the dissipation of its divinity. Yet nothing they'd ever done managed to put a complete stop to it. Meanwhile, the Scorching Sunflower clan, Sunborn Nymph Emperor included, had used many of the resources from here to reach their current status. Their relationship with the Fire Dawns was one of the key reasons why the Scorching Sunflower clan had become one of the foremost clans in the Solstice Empire. This time, the Scorching Sunflower clan was making very high demands, but the price they were offering was incredibly tempting to the Fire Dawn clan. It would allow their divinity to be sustained for another 1,000 years, so the Fire Dawn clan leader was indeed tempted. While an emperor wasn't quite a deity, they were close to one and possessed a trace of divinity, especially top-tier emperors like the Sunborn Nymph Emperor, who had long since touched the barrier to that higher realm. However, what the clan leader had never expected was that just as they were about to reach an agreement, a random outsider would present them with another possibility. The small amount of rainbow skyfire liquid that Tang San had produced wasn't particularly powerful, but it was incredibly pure fire energy. More importantly, just that tiny bit of energy had made the fire god's scepter joyous and excited. Not only had its aura improved ever so slightly, but more crucially, its divine energy was no longer dissipating. This meant that what Tang San had said was true. He could indeed stabilize it. How could this be? Why did he have this effect? The Fire Dawn clan leader was seeing Tang San in a completely different light now. Having someone with this ability was incredibly important to the Fire Dawn clan. If the scepter's divinity could truly be stabilized, or even enhanced, then the Fire Dawn clan could embrace a new dawn. In contrast to the clan leader, the Scorching King's expression had darkened. From the look on the Fire Dawn clan leader's face, he could tell that the power Tang San had used had indeed helped the fire god's scepter, and the effect had been immediate. While the Scorching King felt disbelief, more than anything he was burning with rage. Was the opportunity slipping through his fingers? How could he accept that? The Scorching King shot a cold glance at Tang San and asked icily, "What kind of flame is that?" Tang San responded calmly, "Why should I tell you?" Since he had chosen to intervene, he fully understood that he would be standing against the Scorching King, so there was no reason to be polite. The Scorching King turned to the Fire Dawn clan leader and said gravely, "Clan leader, you must think this through carefully. Perhaps the power he used just now did provide some help, but you must understand that my grandfather's emperor seed is incredibly precious. I went through great effort to convince him to offer it. If you miss this opportunity, you will lose the chance to stabilize your divinity for 1,000 years. Moreover, in 1,000 years I will be a powerful emperor, and with my additional emperor seed the benefits are clear. Our two clans have cooperated for over a millennium. He's just an outsider, and he's nothing more than a weak human. Is his promise worth anything compared to mine?" The Fire Dawn clan leader had been looking at Tang San with intense interest, but after hearing the Scorching King's words, he couldn't help but hesitate. He knew very well that if they failed to reach an agreement with the Scorching Sunflower clan, they would truly offend this powerful race. Having met the sunborn nymph emperor, he knew just how formidable the latter was. Outside the magma Red Sea, they would have no ability to resist. Only by relying on the magma Red Sea and the fire god's scepter could they barely defend themselves. Offending the Scorching Sunflower clan would have severe consequences for the Fire Dawn clan. Moreover, the benefit of 2 emperor seeds was indeed significant. Tang San smiled faintly and said, "Collaboration is always about benefits. A wise leader will choose the partner that offers the greatest benefit. Clan leader, you should be able to sense that the flame I carry holds true divinity. Even an emperor doesn't possess that. At most, they might be able to touch on divinity thanks to having high cultivation. It's true that an emperor's power can stabilize it, but what you need is not just stability, it's to increase the power of the fire god's scepter's divinity." As he spoke, he stretched out his right hand, palm up. A large sphere of rainbow skyfire liquid, more than 10 times the size of the one he produced before, formed in his palm. A faint divine aura radiated from it, and Tang San's gaze locked onto the fire god's scepter. Why was he confident that the fire god's scepter would be drawn to him? When he first saw the scepter, Tang San immediately knew that the base material of the scepter was heavenly fire essence iron, refined heavenly fire essence iron to be exact. His rainbow skyfire liquid was also refined from heavenly fire essence iron, albeit in a different manner, so they came from the same source. Combined with a shred of his own divine energy, the scepter's attraction to it was inevitable. Sure enough, as the large sphere of rainbow skyfire liquid appeared, the fire god's scepter instantly radiated a dazzling light. A beam of light swept toward Tang San, trying to pull the rainbow skyfire liquid toward itself. However, this time, a golden barrier appeared in front of Tang San, blocking the scepter's attempt to seize the liquid. Tang San glanced at the Fire Dawn clan leader with a faint smile. Though he said nothing, the meaning was clear. He was leaving the choice to the Fire Dawn clan. Seeing Tang San produce so much rainbow skyfire liquid, the Scorching King felt as if he had been slapped in the face. This directly refuted everything he had just said, and the fury in his eyes grew even more intense. Clan leader, this human's background is unclear, and he's clearly here to disrupt the relationship between our 2 clans. Why not just capture him? The flames in his possession will naturally become yours. Combine them with my clan's emperor seed, and the 2 together will provide even greater benefits to the scepter. Don't you agree? The Scorching King suggested. The Scorching King's words were undeniably venomous. Unlike him, Tang San had come alone without any backing. He was just one individual. The Scorching King, on the other hand, had the entire Scorching Sunflower clan supporting him. Tang San was certainly at a disadvantage. If they captured him and plundered his resources, nobody would do anything about it. The Fire Dawn clan leader frowned deeply and said in a firm voice, "That will not happen. Regardless of any other factors, he is a guest of the Fire Dawn clan and has done nothing to offend us. How can we act against him? Furthermore, he just offered a great gift to the scepter. Our clan shall never repay kindness with enmity." Hearing the clan leader's unwavering response, Tang San couldn't help but regard the Fire Dawns more highly. Their principles were strong and just, and they truly deserved to be the holders of a divine artifact imbued with divine energy. This further solidified his resolve to help the Fire Dawns, and at the same time, to free them from the influence of the Scorching Sunflowers. Tang San turned to the Scorching King and said, "Both? I don't think so. Clan leader, the Emperor seed is not something you can accept. Have you considered what powers lie within it? Beyond an Emperor's bloodline power, what makes you think there is no imprint of that Emperor's consciousness? And if there is, what do you think will happen when the seed merges with the Fire God's scepter? Can you be certain of the outcome? If, after absorbing the seed, the scepter's allegiance is compromised, have you thought about the consequences? That would be a true catastrophe for the Fire Dawn clan." To take a step back, if you had no other option, choosing the Emperor seed to maintain the scepter's divinity would be understandable. But now, I am offering you precisely that other option. You should be able to feel that the power I offer provides pure nourishment to the scepter, and nothing else. So weigh things carefully. Tang San kept his smile, but every word he spoke was cutting to the bone. Would an Emperor seed contain an Emperor's divine consciousness imprint? Of course it would. Otherwise, how could it be called an Emperor seed? As for what impact such an imprint would end up having on the artifact, that was harder to predict. In truth, even Tang San wasn't sure if the Sunborn Nymph Emperor's imprint would take control of the Fire God's scepter. But as soon as he raised the possibility, the expressions of the Fire Dawn clan powerhouses visibly shifted. The reason was simple. If what Tang San said came true, it would be the greatest disaster the Fire Dawns had ever faced. Even though the Fire God's scepter's divine energy had been gradually dissipating, at its current rate, it could still last for several hundred years, maybe even 1,000. But if the scepter fell under someone else's control, the Fire Dawn clan would immediately collapse. You're talking nonsense. The Scorching King, fully aware of the implications, was instantly furious. He stepped forward, unleashing a powerful aura that bore down on Tang San like a tidal wave. Behind him, a radiant sun appeared, and a scorching aura erupted violently. In a place like Fire God City within the Magma Red Sea, all fire attribute energy was greatly amplified. The pressure was so immense that even Tang San felt as if he was suffocating. Scorching King, that's enough. Today is our clan's festival, the Fire God's celebration. We cannot allow a battle to break out. The Fire Dawn clan leader intervened, stepping between them. With just a gentle wave of the Fire God's scepter, the Scorching King's fire element dissipated without a trace. What a powerful artifact, Tang San thought to himself in admiration. If the Fire God were still alive, this scepter would not be far from the level of a transcendent divine artifact. Clan leader, don't let this human deceive you. He clearly covets the scepter, the Scorching King said angrily. He knew that if the clan leader insisted on blocking him, there was nothing he could do to Tang San here. With the Fire God's scepter, the clan leader could even challenge an emperor in the Magma Red Sea. Tang San's smile deepened. That is a reasonable assumption. Clan leader, why don't you ask the scepter itself? True divine artifacts all have a spirit, and since I've already made contact with it, it knows me. You can ask it if I have any desire for it. The Fire Dawn clan leader hesitated momentarily, and instinctively looked at the Fire God's scepter in his hand. The rainbow light emanating from the scepter formed a flame that flickered gently. Then the flame pointed in Tang San's direction and conveyed warmth and closeness. It was clear that the scepter acknowledged Tang San. There was no way to deny it. Indeed, having made contact with Tang San's divine consciousness, the scepter understood his intentions. Moreover, as a weapon once belonging to a true god, the Fire God's scepter was extremely sensitive to divine beings. When it sensed Tang San's divinity, it naturally grew close to him because it understood that this divinity was the only thing in this plane that could truly help it. In fact, it was even possible that, if Tang San took it for himself and nourished it for a while, it would regain its former power. But Tang San was the sea god, and water and fire do not mix. The scepter could sense the aura coming from him, and it knew it had no chance to become Tang San's core divine artifact. As a weapon once wielded by a true god, it could not be satisfied unless it was the core divine artifact for whomever it chose as its master. But would the sea god ever wield a fire attribute weapon? Most certainly not. Thus, the weapon spirit clearly relayed its thoughts to the Fire Dawn clan leader. This man has no reason to covet me. Just then a crisp, pleasant voice rang out. Grandpa, how about we settle things the simple way? From among the Fire Dawn's higher-ups, a figure stepped forward. It was a young girl clad in a long red dress, with fiery red hair that almost reached the ground. Her beautiful face radiated a heroic spirit that made her appear like a leading figure, even among all the powerhouses surrounding her. Her large pink eyes fixed on Tang San, clearly showing keen interest. Everyone on this high platform was at least at the 10th order or higher, and there was no doubt this girl was at the 10th order as well. Grandpa, the Scorching King is one of our important partners. This time, he has come to propose some terms, and so has this esteemed guest before us. But since they're in a disagreement and you can't make a decision, why don't we let them settle it themselves? Let them fight it out, and whoever wins will work with them. After all, we've been working with the Scorching Sunflower clan for hundreds of years. We can't let this guest's words shake our relationship. But if this human can prove he has the power to back up his words, then we shouldn't rule out working with them either. They can just go outside so they don't ruin the festival for us, and see whose fist is bigger. The girl addressed everyone with a charming smile, but most of her attention remained on Tang San. The Fire Dawn clan leader furrowed his brow, hesitating a little. His main concern was that he didn't want to offend the Scorching Sunflower clan. After all, they were the strongest clan in the Solstice Empire, and the Sunborn Nymph Emperor was possibly the #1 emperor of the entire Demon Continent. Offending such a powerful force would be a huge problem for the Fire Dawn clan. I agree with Miss Linger's suggestion. This matter involves her after all. Human, do you dare to face me in a duel? If I lose, I'll leave immediately and never bother you again. But if I win, you will hand over that flame and piss off. The Scorching King had no objections whatsoever. He genuinely wanted to kill Tang San, and he had no doubt that he could carry that out. Tang San smiled faintly and said, "Sure." The clan leader wanted to say something, but the girl named Linger tugged on his sleeve. After glancing at his granddaughter, he sighed and said, "Very well. But regardless of the outcome, our clan doesn't want to see either of you injured. Only victory or defeat matters, not life or death. After it's over, you both will still be honored guests of our Fire Dawn clan, and are welcome to join in the Fire God Festival." The Scorching King glared fiercely at Tang San. "Let's take this outside." Tang San nodded. "Let's go then." The clan leader turned to the other experts in the clan and said, "Continue overseeing the Fire God Festival. I'll act as a witness for these two." "Grandpa, I'm going too," Hualing'an said with a charming smile. Her beautiful eyes gleamed with excitement, as though she was extremely thrilled by all of this. With a wave of the Fire God's scepter in the clan leader's hand, a red beam of light shot into the distance. He floated up and he was enveloped by the red light. As if the red light was dragging him into the distance, he quickly flew toward where the beam pointed. Hualinger followed her grandfather, while Tang San, the Scorching King, and the two Scorching Sunflower experts trailed closely behind. Since they were all powerful, their flying speed was naturally up to par. Within just a few moments, they were out of Fire God City and back to the center of the Magma Red Sea. The Fire Dawn clan leader looked at both sides and said solemnly, "The Fire God Mountain is extremely sensitive and may not be disturbed. I will kindly ask the two of you to move farther away before starting. We don't want to anger the sacred mountain and cause unnecessary trouble." "That's reasonable." The Scorching King, now appearing calmer, nodded at the Fire Dawn clan leader. Tang San was more than happy to distance himself. The closer they got to the center of the Magma Red Sea, the denser the fire energy became, while the other elemental energies dispersed. Naturally, this was an advantageous environment for the Scorching King, but not so much for himself, so he was rather eager to go elsewhere. They took off again, speeding toward the edge of the Magma Red Sea. This time, Tang San activated his Dragon Rock transformation. A pair of golden wings unfurled and a slight flap of them allowed him to easily keep pace, staying not far from the Scorching King, although the latter was clearly at the peak of the 11th order. The Scorching King had been sensing the changes in Tang San's aura all this while. Earlier, while in the Fire Dawn clan, he hadn't noticed much. But when Tang San readily agreed to fight, it became clear that Tang San wasn't just at the 10th order. He was at the 11th. But since when did humans have experts at the 11th order? For a race forced to rely on foreign bloodlines to cultivate, a 10th order expert was already impressive. As for 11th order humans, the Scorching King had knowledge of none. Could it be that this human wasn't from the Demon Continent? But if he wasn't, then where was he from? Were there other territories like the Magma Red Sea, but inhabited by humans? As he pondered Tang San's origins, Tang San also quietly assessed the Scorching King's cultivation. There was no doubt that the Scorching King was at the peak of the 11th order. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come to the Fire Dawn clan seeking collaboration. His goal was surely to use the Fire God's scepter to achieve a breakthrough and become an emperor. A peak 11th order, and from the Scorching Sunflower clan, this guy was definitely not going to be easy to deal with. But to fight for fortune and lay the groundwork for him and Mei Gongzi to become emperors in the future, he couldn't allow the Scorching King to seize the scepter. He had to win, and he had to win in a very convincing manner. The group of experts flew much faster than the boat that had brought Tang San here. Within just a few short minutes, they could see where the blue and red waters met. They had arrived at the edge of the Magma Red Sea. At this point, the smile on Tang San's face deepened. If the Magma Red Sea was the domain of the Fire Dawn clan, then the Endless Blue Sea was his territory. In the Endless Blue Sea, it wasn't just a mere Scorching King he could deal with. Even if the man's ancestor came, Tang San could give him a run for his money. As they reached the edge of the Magma Red Sea, everyone slowed down. The Fire Dawn clan leader said, "This is the place. As I said before, this fight is to determine a winner, not life and death. Please give me some face and refrain from striking to kill." He certainly didn't want either Tang San or the Scorching King to fall. That seven-colored flame of Tang San's had piqued its interest, especially since the Fire God's scepter had recognized Tang San. Nothing like that had ever happened. Moreover, the young human was aware that they weren't from this world but outsiders. The chief wanted to talk to Tang San and find out how he could be so sure about that. This mysterious young man had sparked a great deal of its interest. As for the Scorching King, he absolutely could not fall here. Otherwise, it would provoke the wrath of the entire Solstice Empire. The Fire Dawns could certainly defend themselves from an emperor, but if all the nymph emperors of the Solstice Empire descended together, they would be doomed. At best, they could take down one or two emperors with them as they were annihilated. Naturally, having the two determine a victor without killing each other was the best outcome. Linger was right. Letting them decide the matter through a duel was much better than the clan making the choice directly. At least that way there would be less offense taken. If you lost because your abilities were lacking, what more could you say? Tang San and the Scorching King floated out, facing each other 100 meters apart. The Scorching King stared coldly at Tang San and said lightly, "You'll pay for everything you've done today, and you won't even have the chance to regret it." Tang San smiled and shrugged. "I don't even know how to write the word regret. One has to bear the consequences of their actions. But whether you can make me bear the consequences is an entirely different matter." The Scorching King snorted coldly. "Let's see if your fist is as big as your mouth. Allow me to show you then." Both of their auras surged instantly. Behind the Scorching King, a blazing sun suddenly appeared, illuminating the space behind him like a sunrise over the sea, radiating an overwhelming aura. His entire body turned a blinding golden red. Although they weren't at the center of the Magma Red Sea anymore, fire energy was still abundant and gave him a significant boost. His bloodline energy radiated a violent, savage aura, burning like the center of a sun. The pressure Tang San felt from him at this moment was almost as intense as when he first saw the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor years ago. This Scorching King was indeed at the peak of the 11th Order, touching the final threshold. If he is given the Fire God's scepter, he might very well step across that threshold. But at that moment, golden light erupted from Tang San. A massive golden silhouette slowly rose behind him. The blazing sun that had risen behind the Scorching King was already dazzlingly bright. But when the golden silhouette behind Tang San appeared, all other lights dimmed in comparison. There was no change on the Magma Red Sea side, but the Endless Blue Sea underwent a visible transformation. The boundless waters of the Endless Blue Sea suddenly became crystal clear, and waves surged across the surface. Blue ripples of light rose and bloomed, transforming into countless waves of light, all converging toward the massive golden silhouette behind Tang San. Its aura intensified dramatically, multiplying several times over. In an instant, the golden silhouette soared to 100 meters tall, its radiant golden light making the brilliance of the blazing sun behind the Scorching King look like a shadow. "What is this?" The Fire Dawn clan leader's gaze froze as he stared at everything unfolding before him, feeling the trembling of the Fire God's scepter in his hand. "What is this? What kind of power is this?" Even the Fire God's scepter was vibrating, trembling with a mix of excitement and reverence. The Fire Dawn clan were not of this world, and their historical records contained some knowledge of things from their old world. The clan leader was well aware of what divine seats were, as the Fire Dawn clan was originally a race of followers of a true fire god. However, not one Fire Dawn alive had ever seen an actual divine seat. They could only sense traces of divine energy from the fire god's scepter. But now, the massive golden silhouette rising behind Tang San seemed incredibly similar to the descriptions of divinity in their clan's records. And why had the Endless Blue Sea undergone such a change? At this moment, it seemed as though Tang San had become connected with the entire sea. Meanwhile, the Scorching King was undoubtedly very powerful, but could his power truly contend with that? At this moment, the Scorching King's heart was also in turmoil. He had initially prepared to use his most powerful abilities to subdue Tang San in the shortest time possible, thereby solidifying the Fire Dawn clan's confidence in collaborating with the Scorching Sunflower clan and himself. Thus he had activated his Great Sun domain without hesitation, intending to dominate the battlefield with the dense fire energy of the Magma Red Sea. But what was this aura coming from Tang San? Why was it so powerful? And where did that mental suppression, which even made his divine consciousness quiver, come from? An emperor? No, that's impossible. He doesn't have the aura of an emperor, there's no mistake about that. But the divine consciousness pressure is not inferior to that of an emperor. How is this possible? The Scorching King's extensive combat experience kicked in. In an instant he had already made his decision. He could wait no longer. The blazing sun behind him slowly rose, and a massive beam of light, over 100 meters in diameter, suddenly shot toward Tang San. The air twisted violently as the terrifying attack tore through space, making the sky and sea tremble. The Scorching Sunflower clan, as the strongest clan in the Solstice Empire, was certainly not led by the weak. The Scorching King's strength was immense. Now, under the amplification of his domain, he was unleashing his full power, an attack even an emperor would have to face seriously. The massive golden silhouette behind Tang San moved, and in its hand appeared a golden trident. The trident traced a circle through the air, and within the endless blue sea, the water surged tens of meters high, bursting with abundant water element energy. The massive beam of light shot forward with immense power, but as soon as it entered the circle, it vanished without a trace. No explosion, no aftermath, just complete silence. Tang San's expression remained calm. He was not using any of his bloodline imprints because most of them were still at the 10th order, and against someone like the Scorching King they were still lacking. As for his transcendent bloodline, they had to be concealed at all costs. But he needed none of them. Right now they were in the endless blue sea, and this was his domain. Here he would suppress his opponent using his divine seat and nothing else. Tang San slowly raised his right hand, and in the next instant, his figure became blurry and then vanished entirely. Meanwhile, the massive golden silhouette behind him solidified. The silhouette's face was that of Tang San, and it was covered in golden armor. Not the manifestation of the golden armor transformation, but a set of armor radiating divine power. In its hand, the golden trident shone brightly as it rose high into the heavens. Instantly, countless ripples of blue light converged toward Tang San. At that moment, the fire energy of the Magma Red Sea was instantly suppressed. The overwhelming water energy dominated everything in the vicinity of the endless blue sea. Seeing his attack so effortlessly dealt with, the Scorching King's heart sank. But he wasted no time. Large golden red flowers bloomed around him, and in the sky 9 flowers appeared, instantly transforming into 9 suns. 9 suns blazed overhead, shooting golden red beams of fire toward Tang San with devastating force. This was the Sunborn Flower, a divine weapon bearing the power of the Sunborn Nymph Emperor himself. Shield! Tang San uttered in a low voice. Immediately, the surrounding waters of the endless blue sea surged upward. Endless water energy transformed into a protective barrier, enveloping the sea god's manifestation. The massive pillars of fire descended, but against this seemingly thin barrier, infused with the will of the sea, they were powerless. One by one, the fire pillars were extinguished. Tang San let out a cold snort. Down! Immediately, the Scorching King felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His divine consciousness felt crushed by a tremendous pressure, as if a giant hand had descended from the heavens and was pushing down upon it. This pressure filled the Scorching King with terror. His breath quickened and his chest felt tight. He felt an almost irresistible impulse to kneel and repent, as if he should never have dared to oppose the being standing before him from the outside. It could be seen that white light was radiating from the golden figure's chest, and a faint white mist seemed to gather in front of it. It was this mist that enveloped the Sunborn Flower. The Sunborn Flowers radiated a powerful divine consciousness, that of the Sunborn Nymph Emperor. But in the next moment, the sea god's manifestation swung the golden trident in his hand, and a bolt of golden lightning descended from the sky, striking the Sunborn Flowers. This was a force condensed from faith energy, a power only a true divine seat could wield. Though Tang San was nowhere near the level of a god king, over the many days he'd spent on the endless blue sea, he had gathered enough power of faith to easily unleash divine punishment. In terms of raw energy, he was still far below the sun-born nymph emperor, but divine punishment was different. It stemmed from a higher dimensional will, and his divine seat was able to summon it thanks to the faith energy it was supplied with. The amount of energy it had was certainly not at the level of an emperor, but its level of existence far surpassed even the planar ruler, let alone the beings of this plane. The brilliant light of the sun-born flower, which had repelled all water energy around it and showcased the overwhelming divine will of the sun-born nymph emperor, suddenly dimmed. The divine weapon struggled slightly, but in the next instant, its aura was fully suppressed, and the flower closed into a bud before being pulled away by the white light. The Scorching King stared in stunned disbelief. Panic rose in his heart, as well as utter confusion. He had no idea how his opponent had accomplished this, but right now he had more immediate problems to deal with. The massive golden silhouette swung the golden trident again, sending golden rings of light expanding outward, encircling the Scorching King from both the left and right. The Scorching King hastily launched an attack, but the dense water energy around him greatly suppressed his bloodline power. As the golden rings descended, all of his attacks were snuffed out. The rings tightly bound the Scorching King, rendering him unable to move. Brilliant golden light shot skyward, rapidly expanding in the direction of the endless blue sea. In a stunning scene, everything in sight seemed to turn golden, and countless blue motes of light floated out from the sea. As they floated upward, they slowly turned golden as well, converging toward Tang San. It was a miraculous, awe-inspiring sight. With every moment, the massive golden figure grew even more solid. Tang San's voice echoed with both majesty and grandeur. "You've lost." Yes, the Scorching King had lost. And he had lost without being able to resist. There was no reversal even after using his powerful divine weapon. From beginning to end, he had been entirely suppressed. The Scorching King felt as if, in this battle, he hadn't faced just a single opponent but the entirety of the endless blue sea. He had never encountered anyone before. In fact, he had never even heard of someone having this kind of power. It felt as if he wasn't facing an emperor, but someone even greater. But how was that possible? Where had such an opponent come from? The Scorching King was completely dazed. The Fire Dawn clan leader was no less shocked. Divinity. He could feel the strong divinity emanating from Tang San. He was completely certain of it. That golden light was the radiance of divinity. Could a human truly possess divine energy? And one connected to the endless blue sea, no less. No wonder the flames he produced were absorbed by the fire god's scepter. Feeling the powerful divine radiance that Tang San emanated, the clan leader's heart had already begun to shift completely in his favor. The Solstice Empire was indeed powerful, and had many emperors, but the Magma Red Sea was technically part of the endless blue sea. A powerful being capable of commanding the entire endless blue sea, and possessing true divinity at that. Such a partner was unique and invaluable. Tang San's figure shrank back to its normal size, and the vast golden light also withdrew. But through the fire god's scepter, the Fire Dawn clan leader could still feel the endless faith energy from the endless blue sea continuously pouring into Tang San. The Scorching King couldn't sense the power of faith, but the Fire Dawn clan leader, who wielded the fire god's scepter and had his clan continuously infuse faith energy into it, could hardly be more attuned to it, and he could tell exactly what was going on. The Fire Dawn clan's population was simply minuscule compared to the countless sea beasts of the endless blue sea. The fact that Tang San could draw faith from all sea beasts, what did that mean? It meant he could potentially become a true god. And that was something the Fire Dawn clan had long sought after. At this moment, the clan leader looked at Tang San with no less reverence than his most convinced sea beast worshippers. The Scorching King had long been forgotten. The clan leader brought Linger over to Tang San and respectfully said, "Huquan of the Fire Dawn clan greets your majesty." Tang San didn't bother to correct the title. Though he wasn't an emperor yet, as the sea god, he deserved to be addressed as such. "There's no need for formalities, clan leader. It looks like I've won this round." In the distance, the rings of unpredictable storm around the Scorching King had already dissipated. The Scorching King's expression was grim, but when his gaze landed on Tang San, he couldn't help but show a hint of fear. Facing Tang San in his sea god state, the Scorching King felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness. Even though he was immensely powerful, he felt as if he had been fighting the boundless, endless blue sea itself. And now, seeing the Fire Dawn clan leader's enthusiasm, he knew that there was no point in staying any longer. "We're leaving," the Scorching King growled, beckoning at his two nymph kings and flying straight back toward the Solstice Empire. The Fire Dawn clan leader glanced in the direction they left but didn't bother to see them off. The display of power Tang San had just shown was far too overwhelming, and he understood even more clearly now that this was the kind of strength the Fire Dawn clan needed. "Your Majesty, I apologize for any earlier offenses and for our inadequate hospitality. I hope Your Majesty will stay and join our Fire God City in celebrating the festival," Huoquan said respectfully. Tang San smiled faintly and said, "No offense taken. It was my intention to see the festival anyway, so let's do that." Huolinger's large eyes had been fixed on Tang San the entire time. Now she smiled sweetly and boldly stepped forward, grabbing onto Tang San's arm, her warm body pressing against his. "You're amazing. I knew you'd win, and you're so good-looking." Caught off guard, Tang San blinked in surprise. In the next moment, silver light flashed, and he slid a meter to the side, putting some distance between himself and Huolinger. "Linger," Huoquan said in a low voice. Huolinger pouted slightly and said, "What's wrong? He won, didn't he?" Huoquan looked at her, then at Tang San, suddenly realizing something. As they flew, he asked, "Your Majesty, are you aware of the agreement between our clan and the Scorching King? Since you've won, we will be relying on you to fulfill it in his stead. It should be about borrowing the Fire God's scepter, correct? That will be no problem." Huoquan nodded, but then his face turned somewhat awkward as he started explaining things.